Happy hump day to you. George Brauchler here in the saddle with you on the George Show 710 KNUS. Pleased as punch to have the band back together. Returning from his short stay at home where he plays role of Billy the Padre, Billy Thorpe, thanks for joining us again, man.
Hey, nice to be back. Good to see you again.
It was touch and go. For a while, I thought maybe he gets such a taste of being gone that he's like, what am I doing? Why am I?
Yeah, I did have that conversation with myself yesterday. I was like,
well, how much do we like this money? How much do we really appreciate this? And then I was reminded how much the kids eat. So
Is it like or need? You know what I mean? The money.
I know. Unfortunately, it's need now because the children are expensive. And that's the thing is, it's this weird thing. So normally we do the grocery shopping on Sunday, but Christmas fell on Sunday. And so now our refrigerator is this weird mix of not really having any food, but being stuffed with Christmas leftovers. So there's food, but is there food? It's really weird.
Wait a minute. Are the Christmas leftovers not edible?
Oh, they're wonderful. Yes, they are edible. It's just, okay. I've had tamales and green chili for 3 days in a row now, and I love the green chili. It's getting kind of repetitive. So
is that it? Really?
Yeah, we got a lot of them. I'm just saying, we got a lot of them. That's kind of the Christmas thing we do. We decided a number of years ago we do the traditional Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve, and then we do something much more independent and fun on Christmas. And so we do tamales and green chili and Spanish rice and stuff like that. So,
oh, that's nice. And that's been a year in, year out kind of thing.
Yeah. So, but it's real. It's we got a lot of leftovers.
Buddy, I'm sorry to hear that. We of course did the ham at my dad's house.
Nice.
The ham and the meatballs.
It?
It was good. I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I feel like I got to eat the ham then. Yeah. If not, then maybe ham becomes part of the Easter thing. It always feels like it's floating around those holidays because you've got turkey crushing the Thanksgiving day. And then on actual Christmas, went with the red meats, went right back to steak.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to Dad's house, and they're all the side dishes laid out.
Yes.
Do you take a little of every side dish, or there's some that you skip?
No, like this. That's a great question. Yeah. Usually I'm good to try to eat everything. And that's a problem. But this year I tried to, and I say try because I'm a failure at this. I tried to stay away from the cheese related ones, only not for any sort of, lactose intolerance issues, just because I have figured out a way post-pandemic to add 30 pounds onto a frame that was doing really well in the mid 150s. And so I look at those things. I'm like, maybe just a little bit. No, I'm not going to do it. So it was an exercise in discipline, but usually I will try to jam into it.
Yeah, I try to get a little of everything, but I don't always eat a little of everything. I feel that if it's made, I should try it at least. And sometimes I end up hiding it under the stuff and just making it disappear later.
Now, Santa-wise, Billy, because you and I haven't had this conversation, even though we're a few days removed. Best thing that Santa brought for the kids and best thing Santa brought for Big Billy.
Oh, that's a difficult one. Well, see, it wasn't Santa that was responsible, but they were, that family gifts and things. My son that's in college, he wanted an iPad for school. So he got an iPad and a lot of the other extras.
Those are not free.
Yeah. My youngest daughter, Gwen, did get her own Chromebook and got a TV for her room that is a smart TV. So they'll link together.
Listen, TV for the room, Billy, as a parent.
Yeah.
That is something that my parents foolishly let me have. Now, keep in mind,
I never allowed it.
Back in the day, it was 1, antenna.
Yeah.
2, black and white. 3, tube TV. So let's keep things in perspective. I wasn't able to just watch 8 trillion different things. And really the reason I had it in my room was Late Night with David Letterman. You know what I mean? I'd go to bed, try to keep myself awake, which was horrible for a kid who had to get up for school the next day because, Letterman didn't come on until like 11:30.
Exactly.
But when I was a parent, and I am a parent, I would refuse to let the kids have the TV in the room because I know what it did to me. Tell me about that analysis.
Yeah. Well, first we broke the rule, based on no TVs in the room with both of my older boys because they both had gaming systems in the room and that required a TV, but they never actually tried to connect it to anything beyond
just the gaming system would do. Okay. All right.
So they didn't do that. Now she, talks about it and wanted it more, and it was a smart TV, and she got really good grades this last semester, despite having some issues with showing up to class at times, on time. Yeah, she was late to
I remember
classes.
those discussions.
Yeah, exactly, off the air. So, but her grades were good. And with the Chromebook, what she's going to be allowed to do is she's going to be allowed to cast the Chromebook and the display onto the TV. And I've seen her doing it already, where she's working on things and the TV is functioning as the screen of the laptop. So there's a thing there. She's also, this may have helped. She also said, if I had the TV in my room and, her oldest brother, Max, has an extra PlayStation because he got a 5 and there's a 4 sitting down there. And she's like, I could play with you guys. And I went, oh, another person on the fire team. Ooh.
Are you?
So that was kind of a draw too.
So Billy, you're a dad that's figured out how to be part of the team when it comes to the video games.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We play video games. In fact, my son and I were playing video games yesterday, goofing around and having some fun doing it. Yeah, we play together quite a bit.
I clearly need to get into that because Graham in particular asks me all the time, hey, Dad, can we do Madden football together? And I'm like, son, you will smoke me because I can't make my thumbs touch all the appropriate buttons in the way that makes it. I will look like I'm right now the Denver Broncos. Like if I play with it, I will be that inept.
We play a first-person shooter together, and it's really good. It's really slick.
Oh, I'd die.
We've been playing it for it's almost like 8 years now.
Oh my goodness!
So it's been quite a while. I'm still not very good. I'm easily the worst of the entire group of us playing. Now that my youngest daughter, I can probably be better than her, at least for 6 months, and then I'm going to be behind again. I always tease my son Spencer, who's in college. I tease him that when we play together, I have to climb in his backpack so he carries me. And that's what he does. He is so good.
Carries you in his backpack?
Yeah, he does. Well, it's a gaming thing that, the idea is, that I'm so bad that he has to have me climb in his backpack and he has to carry me through the levels and through the missions and through the fights. Yeah. Now, as a team, when we get into, playing against other people live and going into those type of games, I am a really good teammate in that realm. I have a specific couple of roles that I do very well, and I can help other people succeed.
Hide in the corner and hit them in the flank?
No, basically what I do is I will run and I will stay.
Draw fire?
I stay about 5 feet behind you. And so while you draw fire, I will add extra damage into the encounter. And 9 times out of 10, you and I will come out the winner.
That's so
there's a thing that we do. Yeah. So I have a really good sense of being that backup and making sure that I clean up areas in which people are causing problems for you. I'm very effective as that.
You are Tonto.
Yes.
I know you can't say Tonto anymore.
I know. Yeah, thanks to
some sort of cultural appropriation thing. I don't know.
Yeah, so we did that. That was fun. My oldest daughter, who's a junior in school, my oldest son, he's out working and stuff a lot. He got a lot of winter related things, and so that's stuff that he needed for work, and that was really nice. My oldest daughter got a upright mixer, like the big thing.
Oh yeah. That's professional grade,
and it's pink.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so it's totally pink. But she does a lot of baking and things. She's really into it, and so this was a nice level up to what she's going to be able to create. She probably does something about once or twice a week, and so this is going to be something that's going to give her an extra kind of oomph as to creating her things. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be good. So yeah.
Buddy, that's a great Christmas right there. But it's good to have you back in the saddle as we move forward through this. I know that we're continuing. And folks, if you haven't done this yet, I'm asking you to go out there right now. Whether you think you're going to enjoy watching it or not, and there's a good chance you won't. That's why you need to go do this, is you need to go to something called the YouTube. And as I figured out, if you throw the in front of anything, you've just put yourself in that 50+ age bracket, right?
I do that all the time. It's great.
The TikTok, the TikTok. Facebook,
I all the time refer to the TikTok just to annoy my kids. All the time.
Go to the YouTube and Google The George Show, 710 KNUS, George Brauchler Show. And
you can see my Christmas sweater.
That's right. Sweet. Yes. That's right.
No, that's a gift from my mom. She gave me some sweaters.
Oh, man. That's nice. You got to wear that.
It's really nice. We'll see. Mom has fallen into this habit, and I absolutely love it. She gives me a sweater every Christmas, and I think we're going on 7 or 8 Christmases in a row, and Mom's got great taste. So it's always something I look forward to. It's always a fantastic
Mom's not
sweater.
Making this thing.
No,
okay.
No, not. She goes out and she buys them for me. This is an LL Bean. I've got an Orvis last couple of years, and so yeah, some of the stuff that I get the most compliments on are the things that my mom buys me, which says a lot about my personal
Billy,
taste.
your mom's still dressing you at this stage in your life. That's an amazing
The other thing
confession.
Or when my wife dresses me, I get lots of compliments. Left to my own, people are like, "What's the homeless dude doing here?"
If I ever wear anything that is out of my very limited range, Amanda's the first to be like, "Why? Where did you get that? Like, what was that?" I'm like, it was on sale. I got it, or when when they hid my bags from me for 4 days, out in Europe, and I had to go to one of those stores. I'm like, oh, I'll buy this quarter zip, whatever this thing is. And I wore it the other day, and she was like, where did you get that? I'm like, there was a store by the hotel, and it was called, and there was like a whole like mall. And I'm like, it was called Zara. And she laughs out loud. She goes, Zara, you shopped at Zara. I'm like, do you even know what the hell that is? I don't. It just looked like a Dillard's, you know what I mean? Or something like that. She's like laughing. She's like, oh my God. I'm like, am I like that weird dad that's like wearing the Vans now, where people are like, you're trying too hard, old man. And she laughs, and I'm like, should I never wear this again? She's like, no, it looks good. It's just not you. I'm like, yeah, okay, that doesn't hurt at all.
There are times in which I'll walk out and we're getting ready to go somewhere, and my wife will just look at me, and I can see that look, and she'll look, and she pauses for a second, and goes, so what are we doing here with this? I'm like, oh, okay, sorry.
There's just so many things in my world where colors do go together. You know what I mean? And then there's the rest of reality where people are like, that's not, I don't think I would do purple with the gray like that.
That's why majority of my my closet is green, blue, gray, and black, because I know those will go together no matter what I pick out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I just don't have the green, but the rest of it I'm good for.
Yeah, there you go.
Blue, black, gray. My world is very dark like that. If I move into the earth tones, and that's what happened here. I bought an earth-toned quarter zip something pullover thing, and instantly Amanda was like, what are you doing? I'm like, am I not supposed to? Like,
I'm not supposed to. Dad. I won't have to show it. I'm going to show it there. This isn't the, I don't know if the camera's picking this up. I got a new ring from my wife, which is nice. And
I can't see it on my end. Is it a Green Lantern ring?
No, well, I can't really see it. No, it's a Star Wars ring.
Oh, I was in the zip code,
you were.
Man.
So the thing is, I have a really, really nice wedding ring. It's gold. It has a claddagh on it. There's a diamond that we placed in the heart. It is gorgeous, but it's metal, and I bonk it on things. And I catch it on things, and I bent it once, and so I had to have it resized. And so I know I'm different. So when they had the silicone rings, greatest thing in the world. But a number of months ago, I ripped my last one, and so my wife got me one, and it's the Rebel Alliance one from Star Wars, and I love it. I'm such a dork.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I'm so excited. I saw it. I'm like, yay. And the thing is, this is the stupid part, is I open it up, and as soon as I open the box, I'm like, and she's like, what? I'm like, I was going to ask for this, but I thought I'd be a dork.
Oh,
she's like,
my
I know
goodness,
you.
buddy,
She
really knows you. That made her day, buddy.
Yeah.
That little gasp right there made her day.
Yeah, she knew. So that was very sweet. It was wonderful.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry. I wanted to know, what about presents for Papa George and the kids?
Yeah, listen, this is going to sound, again, under the caption, have I really become my father? The best thing I got was a replacement pair of UGG slippers, because I've had a pair for years, and they're totally broken in, maybe beyond broken in, or maybe they're broken out, but they are wearing on, I think it's leather on the outside. They are wearing everything from bacon grease to remnants of things where I've taken them out shoveling.
They are loved.
Probably DNA. I don't know. And so got this new pair, and I thought, oh yeah, this is it. And they fit, the new pair actually fit more snugly. They don't fall right off. There's none of the heel rub stuff. So I don't know what to do with the old pair. I don't know. Do you get rid of them, recycle them? Do you hang on to them, because you never know when you're going to need an emergency pair of slippers?
And the other part is that could be your like grubby pair of slippers. That's the stuff that where you go out and you're like going to the garage, and those are the grubby.
That's a good idea.
So you have your dress slippers where you can go to the grocery store, and then you have your grubby slippers.
That's how you get them to be the grubby slippers.
That's what happens. Exactly.
But the kids, I made some stabs in the dark at some stuff. They're good at providing us with a list of, hey, if you're in the area, this would be so. So those things are the easier ones, but made some stabs in the dark on some things. Turned out to be well received. That's good. Only a few things have to be returned. Thank you, Amazon. And still some things we're waiting on from our good friends at Amazon.
Yeah, I'm waiting on some things.
Santa's helper. Amazon.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the present for my wife. Yeah.
And speaking of the old is new again thing, when we were sitting down to crush Jackbox last night.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do as much as we can with Amanda, which is hard because she still has a life outside the house, which is really hard for Dad to believe.
Hanging with the family isn't always cool.
Because on Monday, I think on my way to the radio station here, I'd be taking her to the airport to fly to Singapore for the semester.
No.
Oh, yeah. And even though it's like 4-ish months or something, it's like she's never been outside the country without me. Not without me, she hasn't been. And so that's just going to be really tough.
That's really hard because, I mean, you've dealt with the idea of her being
across the country.
Yeah. And so you can't be there when little things go wrong. But this is the other side of the planet type of thing.
That's literally other side of the planet. Like right now I could hop on a plane, fly for 4 hours and get to DC and deal with something. That ain't going to happen with Singapore. Singapore's crazy. And so we're talking right now about, hey, what are you going to do for spring break? So for the kids' spring break, Graham has some baseball down in Arizona. It sounds like Marsha's going to fly out to Singapore and see Amanda. Nice. Well, that's great. But for Amanda's actual spring break, which is at a different time, she's like, Dad, can you come out? I want to go to Vietnam. And I'm like, okay, that would be a fascinating trip. I'd love to do that. One, folks, if you try to look up on Travelocity tickets to Vietnam, it turns out they're not free. They're not anywhere near free.
They're not? No.
Mercifully, Southwest doesn't go there.
There's not a coupon?
There's no. And then two,
a BOGO? No.
That would mean I got to get Kelly and Brian to agree to let me not do the show.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
And after this Jordan thing that's coming up and after
what you got to do?
Oh, my God.
What we have to do is you have to figure out how to properly sell it to them. We'll work on this. It's not that you're going to see your daughter for spring break. This is about some cultural research. And you're getting some global perspective of the international. I don't know. We'll make up some big words.
Is there any chance we could do the show from Vietnam?
Yeah, I bet there's some sort of a chance. What would the cell charges be? Or what would
I don't know. Like we need that little 5G magic box that Kelly hooks me up with. That, for instance, when I go to Florida at the end of next week and no one will know because we'll be doing it remote. Yeah, I need that special box, whatever that thing is. And I need it. Work. I just don't know if Vietnam is known for its 5G network.
I don't know.
You know,
I'm not even sure at the landline.
Maybe I do this show over the phone, and it's just I'm standing in a rice paddy.
But that's what you got to do. You talk about the idea that you are expanding your cultural horizons, that you are you're doing some research on the global power structure, and you want to see how the Asian communities are dealing with China and the
we're gonna have to work on that because I can picture telling Kelly that right now, and he'll smile all the way through it and then say, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think that's gonna work.
Exactly. I don't think we're gonna do that.
And Brian will just laugh.
Yes.
And then look at me and say, oh, were you being serious?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, I wasn't. I was just sounding it out because Billy said to.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, there's so much more I want to talk about as we get into this. We've already, once again, blown through the Thorpe report and You Choose the News, which we've been missing. Obviously, we've been missing that. I've been missing that. I want to get to that. And then there's some real world things going on.
For that.
I'm not. Listen, there's real politics going on. And I do want to talk about this Supreme Court opinion. I guess it's an opinion. It's like an order. It was a short 3-page order with a dissent that came out that is going to, at least for now, stay the DC Circuit Court or the DC District Court decision that was going to upend Title 42. And that's the thing that's in place. That's the, hey, why don't you stay in another country until we let you come here instead of you just force your way in and then we'll deal with you later. I want to talk about that. There's some other cool stuff going on with McDonald's, some other food items. This was shocking to me. Food items that are no longer available to me to consume that I just took for granted would always be there. And there's sort of a connection there between these two things. I want to talk about that. And then we've got some other current event stories going on here. If there's politics to be had, we'll have it. But there's some real good, I think, life stuff that we can talk about as well. Stick around. We're going to come back. We're going to do the Thorpe report. And then the most produced, most loved portion of the show in any hour, of course, is You Choose the News. Stick around. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler right back with you here on 710 KNUS on The George Show, getting into the most loved, most produced portion of the show. That, of course, is the Thorpe Report, and you choose the news. Billy, we did fail to discuss for those folks on YouTube who have subscribed and hopefully shared this with their social media universe.
Our lids.
So what are you wearing for us today, friend?
Today, sir, I have an out-of-season Colorado Rockies baseball hat. However, this is somewhat of an obscure Rockies hat. You'll notice the colors aren't anything close to what the Rockies
I wouldn't have
wear.
guessed that.
No, it's green and tan. This is actually a special edition hat that was produced during the very first time that we held the All-Star game here at Coors Field.
Oh, yeah.
So not the one where we stole from Atlanta, the original one.
Right.
So it's the first one. But to the best of my knowledge, these hats weren't sold. I was working the game for a broadcast outlet that is going to remain nameless, even though it's printed on the side of the hat. So I was working for them, and they were produced by Major League Baseball and for the people doing it, and they were distributed. So I've never actually seen this hat sold anywhere, and I've never seen the color combination sold anywhere, but it was produced specifically for the first All-Star game that we had here. So that's what I got.
That's pretty cool that you got that. That's not even limited edition. That's just not available.
Yeah, just not available. Yeah. I have a couple of those for my music career. I've got a couple of CDs of things that have never been released. I've got some things by the Smashing Pumpkins, things by 311.
Never released?
Yeah, never released. I've got some stuff from...
And it'd be a violation to play it or something, some sort of rule-breaking thing?
It's just stuff that's never been commercially produced and released. There's stuff that's played on the radio that you can get. There are other live things and bootlegs. But yeah, I've got some stuff from YouTube and some other bands that their albums you could never buy in a store because they just don't exist. So,
buddy, you should.
I've also got some first series run of albums where they changed the artwork later on. So I've got the artwork that's wrong, which is actually kind of cool. It's really kind of neat to have that. So yeah, I've got some of these obscure things. This is my Rockies hat. That's the wrong colors.
I like that.
Everybody always tells me that, but it's still. I think it looks good. The colors are nice.
So, and I think the unique story behind it too, and the fact that no one else can buy that.
Yeah, it's not in the. Yeah, you can't buy it in the stores. What do you got today? What are you wearing,
buddy? When I was the DA, the first thing I did when we went to conference at the Colorado District Attorney's Council, they have an annual conference, a lot of CLE stuff. My predecessor had quit that organization, which was devastating for the organization. It really has strength in numbers. There's only 22 DA's offices, and to lose the 18th and Denver, by the way, they had been out for a while. So I said, hey, I'm coming back. I want to join. So the first year we went there to conference, I got everybody T-shirts that said 18 on it. And it was the year that it was the year we were flirting around with getting Peyton Manning. In fact, I think we had just gotten Peyton Manning, and it was Broncos colors said, we're back. After that, I thought, man, I want to do something else, morale stuff and unit cohesion, that kind of thing. And so I got some hats, and this particular hat is one of them, and it is flying the seal for the office when I was there. Now, this seal, for folks that can't see it, I'm sorry for that. I'm going to take it up and right there.
Oh, nice.
It is a circle. Inside of it is a skull and crossbones. And above it, it says, seek the truth. And below it, it says, punish the wicked. Now, I'd seen this seal on a door of something called a Jeff Lab out in Tikrit, Iraq, where I was the chief of military justice. And early on in my
experiments on guys named Jeff.
I would love it to be that way. No, it's a joint forensic facility.
That's not as much fun.
And it's a bunch of dudes and dudettes from across the country who are
even named Jeff.
You know what? That's a great question.
Kind of neat.
Jeff and the Jeff Lab. Yeah, no, I never asked. Okay. I only knew them by last names. But these were civilian police officers and other law enforcement professionals who get paid a crap ton of taxpayer money to go spend a year doing what you're getting to do for a lot less money. And they do things like they scoop up DNA. They look at ballistics. They try to track down the bad guys through evidence. They try to figure out when there's an IED that explodes or a V-bit or something. Can the materials tell us what smelter it's likely to come from, Syria or Iran? I mean, these folks are all world.
Based on the metal of the
my gosh, they're wizards out there.
Yeah.
And so I go out there to visit them to do some relationship building early in my time in the desert. And I go to their front door, and they have something like this on it, except it's littered with the little icon for the patch from the 18th Airborne Corps and from the government of Iraq and from all this other stuff. And I took a picture of it with my cell phone. That's the only feature the cell phone could function out there. I mean, the only function it could have, because it had no cell connection. And I thought, someday I'm going to do something with this. I come back, I become DA. And I thought, what does the DA do? Right? The DA seeks the truth. That's first and foremost. But it doesn't just go out there and punish the hell out of everybody. We only punish the wicked, right? Everyone else is rehabable. That's sort of the approach. I thought this is perfect for us. So I made this thing. It was our coin that we gave out, the law enforcement coin, and I put it on this hat here. Now, keep in mind, other folks have had a different reaction to it. Even people within the office, some of the softer folks are like, that just sounds like so aggressive. Can we just say seek the truth, seek justice? And I'm like, we could say that if we were a bunch of wusses, but we're not. I want the wicked to know we're out there to get them, And then
really cool.
I dropped the coin at one point that had it on there by a Democrat county commissioner, Arapahoe, who will remain nameless. And she picked it up and she's like, is this yours, George? I'm like, yeah. And I tell her the story and she's like, my God, that's really aggressive. I'm like, it is, isn't it? I mean, it's awesome. We're coming to get the bad guys.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
And she was just looking at me like, that's not, I want, hugs for thugs or something like that. I don't know what it was. But anyway,
the big part of this story here that I kind of we glanced over is the fact that you got to make your own seal.
I know. Isn't that pretty sweet? Now, keep in mind, my successor, John Kellner, I've seen his coins. He did not carry that tradition on. His seal is the office symbol, which is fine. And on the obverse side, it has 4 different county symbols for the 4 counties he represents. And I'm like, that is the least offensive, most boring way you could have done that.
Mine would have had Super Grover on it just because.
Yeah, listen, anything you do to make it stand out.
Crazy.
There's general officers in the Army. They have these things too, commanding officers. I got one from a general named La Sirica out of the Guard, and it had zombie apocalypse on it. And I'm like, this is my favorite.
Yes.
This is the best.
This is my guy.
I mean, the boring stuff, who cares? You want
awesome.
Something with character.
Yes, exactly.
And I'll tell you who loved our coins, even if it wasn't the internal staff. Police, man. The cops. Cops loved them. They're like, oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Punish the wicked. Let's go get them. I'm like, right on.
Oh, I love that. Well, should we do the news thing?
I think we should.
Might as well. All righty. Well, good morning, sir. It's nice to be back. Nice to see you again. And hundreds,
great to have the team back.
Yeah, it is nice. Hundreds, if not thousands, of bags are still at Denver International Airport as of last night because of that winter weather and technological problems. To see a luggage that's appearing to grow almost by the minute as employees bring in multiple cartloads throughout the evening. The line to file for lost luggage fluctuated throughout the entire evening. Passengers who checked their bag prior to boarding and the flight got canceled, well, for some of them, the bag made it to the destination without you. For others, the bag stayed at DIA, but Southwest employees say, well, sorry, your bag must go to the actual destination. Then it can come back here to see you. No. Wait, sir, you have it out there. No. The bag must go on the little flight and then come back. I don't understand. But several passengers say there are 20 to 30,000 bags at DIA belonging to Southwest Airlines passengers. Southwest was actually floating the idea of putting some of them onto big trucks like 18-wheelers and driving them to their destination. And I'm sorry, when the airline solution is to drive something somewhere, that is a failure. The CEO of Southwest Airlines has promised to, quote, double down on his plans to upgrade technology. It's a little late now, sir.
I always viewed Southwest as the most efficient operation out there. And now it sounds like that, much like my respect for Elon Musk's brain has really taken a hit.
It really has. I mean, there's a video statement that was released late yesterday, and Bob Jordan blamed an unprecedented winter storm for creating the problem and then apologized to challenges that his airline has and they're continuing to wrestle with. Clearly, we need to double down on existing plans to upgrade our systems. Well, some of the people working with those systems say, yeah, not so much. Corliss King, second vice president of Transit Worker Union Local 556, says, well, part of the problem is the basic workers, in order to check their system, have to make a phone call. No, there's no schedule. There's no email. They got to call on the phone. And to check your schedule, the phone call could be 5 minutes. It could be 60 minutes. Could be 17 hours.
No way.
So sometimes the flight attendants are sitting back at the hotel trying to get through on this antiquated phone system to figure out if and when they are going to fly. So just imagine if every day for your job you had to dial a phone number and then figure out your schedule, but the amount of time you had to wait to get that schedule was highly variable. Yeah, that's fantastic. Elsewhere, one person was killed in a shooting near Federal Boulevard and Colfax Avenue yesterday evening. Police said the shooting happened right around 7:30 p.m. at the 1600 block of North Grove Street. Person who was killed has not been identified. Police have also said have not said what has led up to the shooting, or if there are any suspects or if anyone has been arrested. Elsewhere, a family of a 16-year-old found dead on Monday morning believes she was killed days earlier in a shooting that sent her boyfriend to the hospital. Tiana Manuel's body was discovered on Monday morning outside an apartment complex in the 4900 block of North Sedalia Street in Denver. That's near 60th Avenue and Pena Boulevard. Pamela Jackson, the girl's mother, has said that she believes her daughter was killed in the shooting on Friday evening. They've just been trying to get through this as much as we could, and we're just trying to find out answers. I just want these people who did this to my daughter to be caught. The weight is so unbearable. She says police are looking for a gray Honda CRV, license plate CNE147, and has a pink AutoNation dealer plate on the front. 2 bank robbery suspects were taken to the hospital after pursuit in a crash and a shooting involving officers yesterday in Thornton. Police said the incident began at the Wells Fargo on East 120th Avenue and Colorado Boulevard.
I'm a Wells guy.
Male and female. I'm not anymore. Male and female reportedly displayed guns in the bank, and officer in the area saw a vehicle speeding away from the bank. They pursued the vehicle, later determined to be stolen. Surprise! Oh, wait. Let's see. So this couple wasn't stealing the car to live in it. That they did it to do more crimey stuff. Okay.
We've never heard of that before. Stolen car for crimes.
Yeah, never.
I thought it was to stay warm.
I thought so too.
I've been told that by the legislature.
I thought it was about our kindness. We have to understand that they're stealing our cars, and we need to care about them because of it. But oh well. The intersection of East 88th Avenue and Colorado Highway 2 in Commerce City, the vehicle crashed into another vehicle while driving against traffic. Always a smart thing to do. The driver of the other vehicle suffered a minor injury. Also, we have a 70-year-old man who died on Monday after he was brutally attacked in Thornton during a Christmas Day celebration in a parking lot at a bar. Shortly before 10 p.m., Thornton police officers were called to Thirsty's Pub, that's at 1294 East 104th. When they arrived, they found the victim and learned that he had been punched and kicked after backing into another person's car. The victim had serious injuries, taken to the hospital, and he succumbed to them. They're looking for the assailant. Elsewhere, Tri-County Health Department is going to completely dissolve as of December 31st, so on Saturday. And in the new year, residents will seek public health and services through individual health departments for Arapahoe, Adams, and Douglas
we covered this pretty extensively, both on the Saturday show and then the 9 o'clock show and then this show. As it developed, this was created entirely by Tri-County Health. The COVID broke Tri-County Health. Their approach to public input, the orders they issued, their lack of meaningful collaboration and distinction between the different boards of county commissioners, they have no one to blame but themselves for the implosion of this organization.
Yes, they do. They nobody but themselves to blame. The other question I've got is the system that will replace it going to necessarily be better? I have questions on that as well.
No doubt it will not.
I don't know. Yeah, and that's the thing. is yes. So basically, Tri-County Health broke themselves, and then the system we're to get is going to be worse. But
it was a wonderful idea. The economies of scale, all that stuff. But listen, the growing pains.
Yeah, and again, that is the perfect encapsulation of governments working together. We're going to work together to make it better. Then we're going to F it up so badly, the replacement's going to be worse. That is your government.
And the F is fix.
Yes, it is. Speaking of fix.
What?
Oh, yes, we have to fix this part of the show. Yes, it is time for You Choose the News, everybody's favorite radio news game show, where we have scoured the interwebs to find ridiculous stories, very ridiculous ones today, giving them stupid headlines to play this fake radio news game. Why? Well, no one's told us to stop yet, so we're going to keep doing it for a while. And today we're proudly sponsored by Mr. Wizard's Home Meteorology Kit. Yes, just like our meteorologists, you too can forecast the weather. Use your magic 8-ball. And we have more kits for you. Just a minute, we'll get to that. But first, we must play the game. Alrighty, sir. Here are your headlines. Headline number 1, worst Marvel hero ever. Headline number 2, Christmas Carol cancellation. Headline number 3, Monty Python sketch weight loss program. And headline number 4, remember, not woman's best friend.
These are all good ones, buddy.
There, here are your choices again. Worst Marvel hero ever, Christmas Carol cancellation, Monty Python sketch weight loss program, and remember, not woman's best friend.
I'm really debating between Marvel and Monty. I'm going to go Marvel.
Marvel. This may be the worst Marvel superhero ever. Super mosquito. Yes. One of the most vilified pest species on the planet is now outsmarting the ways in which we humans are trying to get rid of them. Yes, they have found super mosquitoes. Researchers at the National Institute of Infectious Diseases in Japan are studying mosquitoes in dengue-rich areas. So it's Vietnam and Cambodia. Vietnam, pay attention. Yeah. Vietnam and Cambodia. They found that they harbor mutations inside the mosquitoes that allow them resistance to common insecticides. They published a study just last week in the Science Advances. One of the most concerning problem is the mutation appears, for one thing, in about 78% of the collected species. So, yeah, this one particular species of mosquito that is very good at spreading dengue fever, yellow fever, Zika virus, and more has developed a strong resistance to our pesticides. Elsewhere, one of the things that was really scary is 2 certain species of mosquitoes found the females learned to avoid the pesticides almost instantly after a single non-lethal exposure. So yes, with these particular species of mosquitoes, if you don't kill them the first time, they learn what the pesticides smell like or what they do, and then they will stay away from them. So then you can't kill them. So yeah, we are developing super mosquitoes.
Did they then have babies that have that same immunity and stuff?
Yeah, that will develop the same speed. Yeah, the same thing. So the problem is, you got almost 80% of one type of mosquito.
Vietnam, you say?
Yeah, Vietnam and Cambodia. Yeah, not good.
Maybe that's our special project when I travel abroad.
I like how you're thinking.
That we have to follow up on a You Choose the News story.
Yes, we do. Alrighty, sir. Your second choice: Christmas Carol cancellation, Monty Python sketch weight loss program, or remember, not woman's best friend.
Monty
Python. Here, this is actually very interesting. Now, soon we are going to be going into the new year, and everybody's going to be starting their new weight loss programs. And you might be able to take inspiration from one of the most famous Monty Python sketches of all time, the Minister of Silly Walks. Yes. Studies have just found that inefficient walking styles, especially that of Mr. Teabag, acted by John Cleese in the 1971 Monty Python sketch Ministry of Silly Walks, have been shown to be actually more efficient at burning calories than your usual walking. Now, what they did is it's again a small study right now. They're going to be expanding it, but they did a study on a small group of adults, and they had some of them walk regular pace, and some of them replicate Mr. Teabag's walk from Monty Python. And they found that those that replicated Mr. Teabag's walk resulted in significantly greater energy expenditure. In fact, it was about 2.5 times greater. What does that mean? Well, it means that if you would go around silly walking, you could achieve 75 minutes of vigorous intensity of physical activity by just walking for 11 minutes.
Does it have to be at a mall?
No, it doesn't have to be. You could do it in the park, which, again, you'll probably meet a lot of new people and maybe even the police. But the thing is that they say by doing the silly walk, you could get 75 minutes worth of activity in 11 minutes.
So this is like a wog?
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like we're talking wogging.
Yeah. Well, it's more fun than that. Haven't you ever done your own silly walk? Or am I the only nerd here in this conversation?
I have. It's usually with a little alcohol on board, but I've done it.
No, we've done. Because again, I was a Monty Python fan. So as kids, we goofed around and had our own silly walks.
Or if I had things inside me that needed to come out, you know what I mean? And you're like shifting your body around to keep from.
Where you're like, oh gosh. And
you
like,
gotta go. Yeah.
Turtle head poking out, gotta run. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, sir. Last and final choice this morning: Christmas Carol cancellation, or remember, not woman's best friend.
Not woman's best friend.
Not woman's best friend. Now, you've heard that dogs are man's best friend, but maybe that doesn't hold true for the fairer sex. At least that's what a woman in Essex found out just before the holiday. On Christmas Eve, she had to go out and run a couple of quick errands, and when she returned home, her house was full of smoke and partially on fire. And it's all because of her dog. Yes.
What?
Yes. Fire investigators figured out that it was the dog that started the fire, not because he was mad at her, but because the homeowner actually left her hairdryer plugged in. It was off, but it was plugged in, and she placed it on her bed.
Okay.
And when she left, the dog jumped up onto the bed, hit the hairdryer. It started, and the heat from the hairdryer ignited her comforter. And then the rest of the flames started spreading from her bedroom to the rest of the house. Now, the whole house wasn't a loss. She did lose things in her bedroom and a couple other rooms. The dog suffered from smoke inhalation. But yeah, because she didn't unplug her hairdryer, the dog started a fire.
That is amazing.
I know. It is.
And do we know whether the dog intended the fire, or was it just...
I think it has to do with whether or not he was given a bone before she left, or whether or not she said he's a good boy. So that's all it is. So I'm just telling you, got to make sure to tell your dog you're a good boy before you leave. That's it. That is it. The end of You Choose the News. As always, George is our perennial winner, and I'm a giant loser. But today, we are proudly sponsored by Mr. Wizard's home meteorology kit. Yes, with the home meteorology kit, you get a magic 8-ball, you get a dartboard, and you also get just a bunch of cards you pull out of a hat because, hey, that's how the professionals do it. Yep, you too can train to be a professional meteorologist with Mr. Wizard's home meteorology kit on sale for 50% off if you mention the show. All righty, back to you, sir.
Buddy, that was well worth the wait. Thank you for that. Listen, we've run up against, of course, the time that is needed to get all the stuff done before we come back and quickly sign off for hour number 2. So I'm going to turn it back over to you for the purposes of getting us out of here. But stick around. We're going to get through all the good stuff in time. I want to talk to you about some things at the Supreme Court, as well as some things that are taking place at your favorite fast food establishment. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. Oh, man, a blast from the past. A little bit of outfield here on the George Show on 710 KNUS. My thanks to Billy for putting together that great Thorpe report, and you choose the news. Only a couple minutes left to get into the 7 o'clock hour. Here's what's going on. McDonald's. If you have not yet heard or seen this story, there's something incredible going on with McDonald's. Not completely unpredictable. It's not quite sci-fi, but it is on the doorstep of Teledyne, or what was that from Terminator, Billy? Skynet. But it was wasn't it Teledyne or something that did the network or whatever? And there's a McDonald's in Texas that has gone fully automated. And I want to talk to you about that when we come back, sort of the reasons why they're doing it, but also the ramifications for it. And would you go to one? And then something else as I'm going through the news that I came across, and it's heartbreaking on a lot of levels, but mostly nutritionally. And that is the end of the year wrap up involves a whole bunch of things. You know, when you do the, the Oscars, they have that segment where it's like, who did we lose in the last year? Which stars? And, you even go through that at the local level. Who are the local folks that have passed on and all this? Well, there are foods that have passed on, folks. And some of them, I did not realize they were gone. And, you have that moment too, when you're watching the Oscars, if you're prone to doing that. And I still do from time to time. And you see, oh my God, I can't believe that. Oh my God, Lauren Green, or, oh, I can't believe all that other stuff. And that's Lauren Green, not Lauren Green from Fox News. There's a series of foods here, many of which have spent time inside my digestive system that are no longer available to go there. And that too touches upon McDonald's and the fast food world and what's going on. It's much more of a quality of life thing, but I want to have that conversation with you. Things are changing. I'm not sure it's all for the better. And then, of course, there was the Supreme Court decision that came down yesterday. I've got the full opinion right here. I've already read through it. It is interesting. It's fascinating. It's going to have consequences for us down the road. But it has to do with this immigration crisis that has been brewing for, years now. And it is up on the shores, and the Supreme Court took some very interesting action that your gut reaction, like mine, was, oh, good, I'm glad they did it. And then I read Gorsuch's dissent, and I think, wait a minute, what have we done? This may be completely screwed up. And I'd love to have that conversation with you as well. Listen, you stay in touch with us by checking us out on the phone at 303-696-1971, but hit us on the text as well at 710-KNUS and the 710-KNUS app.com, all of it. Stick around. We'll be right back for hour number 2 of Fort's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler right back with you here on 710 KNUS, The George Show. Thank you. Hour 2 of 4. Of course, Charlie Kirk at 10 o'clock. Prager at 11, Gorka at 1, and then we go live and local with Deb at 3, and Stefan, who I think Aaron Lapidus covered for him yesterday. I think Stefan's back on today, but if that changes, we'll let you know. Of course, it's really just a matter of waiting for Alexa to text in. No, this is actually what the schedule is, because she knows everything about what's going on here before I do, which is crazy. So I can't wait to come in one day and see a text that says, "You're not on today. They've let you go." But that hasn't happened so far, and thank you for not sending that text, Alexa. But that is a reminder that, of course, you can get to us on any topic that we cover, not just at 303-696-1971. I'll get to a caller that we have online here, but also through the 710knus.com website and 710KNUS app. But please, pretty please, check out that YouTube. Even if you're not going to watch, and we already got a text from a great listener who's like, "I won't go there because there are some things that need to remain unseen." I'm not going tubing, at least on this show. Jeffrey Tubin is what I mean. But please go out to that YouTube channel, subscribe to it, like it, send it off to your friends, and then you don't ever have to watch it again, but I think you will. And I think you'll like what you see. Let's go right to the phone lines here. Don, you're on 710 KNUS. Don, you had something that you wanted to bring up.
I do, George. Hope you had a good Christmas.
You too, man.
Good upcoming New Year.
You
I've
too.
been sitting around enjoying my first case of COVID.
Oh, no. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's kind of like a bad cold. Not too bad. I've had worse.
Now, had you gone down the road of getting the shots, the COVID shots?
5.
5? Oh, my, I didn't know you could get 5.
Well, I got the first 4, and then they came out with that booster, and I got it very early in the spring when it became available.
Yeah. And do you think
I've got a little bit of pulmonary issues from a blood clot?
Oh, buddy, sorry.
12 years ago from a hockey puck in my calf. Anyway,
okay.
I've got a clotting factor. I find out late in life. So having said that, I started feeling kind of nasally and stuff.
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it, Don.
And I, started thinking, well, I wonder what I'm coming down with. Got a little bit of the chills and stuff. I had some test kits I never used when I traveled around the world in May. So I said, I think I'm going to test this Friday.
Yeah, sure.
And I came up negative. I go, well, okay. Running a bit of a low-grade fever, 99.6 or something. Went to bed, got up the next day, had that crap in my lungs and sinus, itchy eyes, all the things you kind of expect out of the normal crud. And I did have my flu shot. I did every year for a long time. So later in the day, I started just thinking, God, this crap's starting to kind of go downhill. My fever's at 100.5, so I had some Tylenol. I started taking some of it. And then I did another test, and buddy, within 3 minutes, that thing was full-blown both lines.
Unbelievable. But that's not why you called in. I'm glad you're on the mend and you're feeling better, but that's not why you called in.
Yeah, don't. All I'm saying is, don't be too afraid of the COVID. You're going to get it. You're going to live. You're going to die. You're going to get sick. Maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. There's no guarantees in life. I called in because I don't think you were around. Maybe you were. I watched a couple days of the Kerry Lake lawsuit on TV. Did you watch any of that?
None, not a moment of it. I followed it as much as I could with just reading the stuff that are the reporting from it, but I didn't watch any of it. Did you find something fascinating there?
Well, I found a few things fascinating. It seemed, and I've watched quite a few of the trials, for many years from the higher profile when I've got the time, that it looked like the prosecution, they started off a little bit slow, but they got up to speed. And I thought they laid out some really good cases for why Maricopa County really should have been redone.
What does that mean, redone? What does redone mean?
I think they should recount Maricopa County. One of the biggest things was they lost control of the chain of command from one point to another with the ballots. and they still can't come up with
did
where they were at.
Did the judge get it wrong, in your opinion? I mean, the judge applying whatever Arizona law there, and I know that Kerry Lake is going to directly appeal to the Supreme Court, so it's not the last word on it. But did you get the sense that the judge misapplied the law? You just disagree with him? And if so, why?
I watched part of a show where the lady, there was a gal who reads people's body language, and I was tying the judge to what she was saying when he was asked certain questions. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can call it science, but the guy's tells, and I'm a big believer in people's tells, kind of, give away, kind of where they may feel about it. No, I think the judge did not get it right. I think there's just some things that were laid out that,
you think it was a product of him just missing the boat on something, or do you feel like there was corruption there? Any evidence of that, or I just disagree?
I don't know what goes on in the mind of that guy. I don't know what the pressure is behind him. When I grew up,
what pressure?
Well, from the other powers that be around him.
What does that mean?
It means there are other people telling people what to do. And
is that how you see this working out with judges? That someone comes to the judges and say, you will do blank, and they do it?
Of course.
Of course. Who is that person who has the authority to do that?
It could be people in the federal government.
What?
It could be people
what?
In,
but Don,
what? George.
But do you think that there's some dark room somewhere where they pull a judge in and say, we tell you to do this, and if you don't, what's the veiled threat? What's the we'll coerce you to do this, because if you don't, blank will happen? Like when you say powers that be, that's just an easy out for, well, I imagine they were influenced. I can't tell you who. I can't tell you how. I can't tell you why. But clearly there's something afoot here. I mean, I get disagreeing with the judge, but Don, if you're going to allege that somehow somebody got to the judge and influenced them, what are you talking about, and how would they do that?
Well, I think there's numerous ways they could do that, George.
Well, give me one of them. Give me one of them.
Well, they could tell somebody that's close to him that, it'd be really good if, this trial went the way in favor of the defense, and that that it would just be really good for you, good for your career. I mean, there's all kinds.
Good for your career. What does that mean?
Back up 1 second, George. I want to ask you something.
Well, hang on. We're on an important topic here.
You're always on this side where you don't think any of this stuff goes on. So let me ask you a little question, okay? Just hear me out, man. Give me the courtesy of hearing me out. Do you think that the FBI played everything straight under J. Edgar Hoover's rule?
Yeah, I don't know what that has to do with this, Don. I don't know that they did. I'm sure there's books out there I haven't read, but I don't care. What difference does it make for this?
Give me an answer.
I told you, I don't know, man. I have no opinion because I don't know the answer. It doesn't have any impact on this.
Do you ever read any history? Do you ever read anything about
I've done a little bit of history reading, Don. Yep.
Pardon me?
I've read history. Yeah.
How much? You still read?
Buddy, my ability to leisure read is pretty limited at the moment, but get to whatever it is you want to say that is going to back up your suggestion that the quote unquote powers that be influence this judge to find against Kerry Lake.
Wrong. I said, I do believe he got
okay.
it wrong.
And if your position is, Don, I disagree with his analysis.
And I said, it's a possibility that this is the way he rules, but it could be that he was influenced. Yeah. That's just my thoughts, George. Okay?
I get it, man. But
I watched it. I saw the evidence presented. You didn't.
No, I didn't.
That's true. I saw the weak defense. Kind of reminded me of the people running the Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
Uh-huh.
Those prosecutors. and how, they just were really, really poor at what they did. And, justice.
It was a dumb case to begin with in terms of the theory of the case they offered it just was never going to be effective.
Okay. Well, I thought the defense in this case were not very effective. They squirmed a lot. They made a lot of objections that a good part of them didn't go their way. I mean,
so you agreed with the judge on the objections rulings?
Well, on some of them, and some of them I didn't.
Okay, that sounds like a normal trial. That doesn't sound like there's...
normal trial. You spend your time in courtrooms. I don't. I mean, I've been in a few. I've gone up against a few cases that people have wanted to come after me for something, and a couple times I've had lawyers, and the other few times I've defended myself, and I got a 4 out of 5 record on that as far as coming out victorious. However, I just asked if you'd listened to it, watched it.
No, I didn't. Just read about it.
Judge, hey, this is no judgment upon you. I get it that you're a busy man. You don't have the leisure to consume yourself in reading like I do.
Yep.
And that's just the way it is. But to me, that when I look at the world and the way things are today, this doesn't all come about because it came about. Including in the government. Okay, it just things just coincidence. I just don't. I'm not a big buyer into coincidence. It's just like all the problems the airlines had. Well, yeah, did they have problems? But the big problem was some really crappy weather.
Yeah,
and what if they
but Don, said, hey, here's where we're at. Is
we're not going to fly for your safety. We're not going to fly. Okay. Now, everybody's going, I should be able to fly. I paid for that ticket. It's me. Don't you understand? I got to get to grandma's. Sorry, buddy. Those.
Don, you lost me. You lost me on that. But I think the gist of it here is that that trial was heard by someone. That trial was heard by you for sure, but someone that had paid far more attention and on every single second, and that's the judge. And it doesn't mean judges always get it right. Hell, I say that they get it wrong a bunch of times too. But it's just hard for me to go with there's something else going on here other than a judge who viewed the evidence and said, I'll let 2 of these things move forward. I'll get rid of the other 8. I don't think that this was baseless and offered in bad faith. So I won't hit you with any sort of punitive fees or fines, but I am going to make you pay for the other side's attorney's fees. That seems pretty measured to me. That seems like somebody who paid attention and allowed this to go forward. Huh?
Is that what he did?
Well, buddy, I thought you watched the trial. Yeah, that's what he did.
Is that what he did? Did he make the other side pay the attorney's fee?
He's going to make Carrie Lake pay those. Yeah.
Is he?
Uh-huh.
I didn't see that. I haven't read that, but I find a hard time finding much I can even read about.
Here's how it reads, at least on the CNN politics story. Arizona judge orders Carrie Lake to compensate Katie Hobbs for some fees for election lawsuit, but declines to sanction her. So he rejects the lawsuit on Saturday, said there just wasn't clear, convincing evidence, and it's supposed to be clear and convincing evidence of misconduct. And it's a big defeat. There's no doubt about it. But they were not going to be sanctioning her. Go ahead, sir.
Are you happy that it was defeated?
I'm happy when the law is upheld. I mean, there's no outcome that I root for independent of it going through just the law. I mean, I don't think we ought to be in the business of saying, and we'll talk about this. It's interesting with the Supreme Court decision that came down on Title 42, but our enthusiasm ought to be reserved for when the law is upheld, not for when an outcome is achieved that we think is a good outcome. That's not how America works. So here's what she has to pay. He ordered, this is the judge, ordered Lake to pay Hobbs $33,040.50 for her expert witness fees. So that's a little bit different than attorney's fees, but for her expert witness fees, that's a lot of money. That's $33,000. But that's it. And then the other 2 things will move on. Carrie Lake's going to appeal directly to the Supreme Court, and we'll know more. And maybe the Supreme Court agrees with you, Don, that this was done incorrectly. But regardless of it, I just don't see this one moving the needle at all at this point. And two, I am not going to presuppose any sort of untoward influence with the judge. I deal with state judges now 27, 28 years. That's just not how they function. There is no dark room or phone call or someone shows up and says, I'm with the federal government. We really need the case to turn out this way. That does not happen at the state level. I don't know what goes on at the federal level. It does not happen at the state level.
Has it ever?
In the history of America, I have no idea, Don. I have no opinion about that because I don't have any information on it. Don't know. It's irrelevant to what happens today. I mean, if the argument is, hey, the FBI may have been corrupt under its prior director, therefore, that's not an argument that succeeds, man. That dog won't hunt. You can't say because something happened in the past means it happened today. That's not a justification.
You think Comey was corrupt?
It depends on your definition of corrupt. Do I think he made some really horrible and weak decisions for motivations that were other than the best interests of America and fulfilling his job? Yeah, I have my doubts about that for sure.
You think he did anything intentional?
I don't know what that means, intentional. I think everybody does things intentionally. I don't think he accidentally did anything, Don. But and again, I really love that you call and that you listen. But your way of having a conversation is to simply ask a series of questions and never answer mine. So, I mean, I appreciate that we're doing this, but whether or not the FBI has done things wrong in the past, whether or not Comey had ever done anything intentionally wrong, completely irrelevant to the issues of what took place with Carrie Lake and that Arizona state judge when she got crushed in court. Completely irrelevant, disconnected at every level.
George, my way of answering may not satisfy you for an explanation. I mean, you deal in the law. I don't. So you can ask me questions. I may not be able to be as literally spoken the way that you would like to hear it. You're a lawyer, man. You've done it for what, 30 years, 28 years?
No, Don, it's not how you answer, it's that you don't.
I'm an amateur individual.
I know, but it's not how you answer, it's that you don't answer. Like I say, Don, do you think this? What is your evidence for this? And your answer is, well, George, let me ask you, do you read history? It's like, what the hell does that have to do with the question? What evidence do you have that would suggest the federal government showed up and arm twisted this judge?
There's been so much cover up and corruption in our history.
Buddy,
in my opinion, okay, George?
Yeah, go ahead.
In the court, on all levels, in the institutions of the federal government, and what we're seeing going on now on a day-to-day basis, it's just like they want to make Adam Schiff the senator. 3 years that guy spent lying. There is no limit to corruption in any position.
There are limits. There are limits, Don. And if the mindset here is, I presume corruption every time the government does something with which I disagree, then I get it, man. Then a conspiracy has to exist because all of these things can't happen coincidentally. But maybe, just maybe, these are people who are earnestly trying to do what they believe to be the right thing, and they just do something with which we disagree. That has to be the first reaction.
I don't think there's always corruption, George, but it seems to me that over and over in some of these cases that can be very, very important, that they always tend to seem to go one way. Okay? They just do. Why do things happen the way they happen? How did Jeffrey Epstein get sued?
But here we go with the questions again, man. There's no connection between Jeffrey Epstein and what took place in Arizona.
I'm not making a connection other than the fact that why do these things continue to go on?
Don,
why did Maricopa County was the county?
We're going X-Files here, Don.
Well, George, if people start screaming conspiracy, you touch the nerve. That's just the way it is.
It's like, not that you touch the nerve. It's that you say something for which there is no evidence. And if someone's objection to that, and that's me, is touching a nerve, okay. But, buddy, you can't just say things, presuppose things, preclude things, and then say, I don't have to have evidence for it because of Jeffrey Epstein.
The evidence isn't manufactured.
Huh?
How do you know? How do you know the evidence that you're believing in was not manufactured by somebody smarter than you?
How do I know the evidence? Buddy, think about where you're going with this, Don. Your presupposition is the evidence is manufactured unless you can prove to me that it's not. What world is that?
Oswald killed John Kennedy.
Oh, buddy, I got to let you go, Don. In fact, we're up over time. I took you 25. Here's what I want. I want you to get better, and then I want you to call back in, and you can ask me your millions of questions and avoid all mine. Listen, when we come back, happy to continue this conversation about the Kari Lake thing. I don't know if it was the right outcome, but I do not doubt for a moment that this judge was trying to do what he thought was the right thing based on the evidence and the law. I do not believe, nor will I ever subscribe to the notion that there is some amorphous, all-powerful, omniscient powers that be that are out there making things happen behind. I mean, it feels like it's the X-Files, man. It's the guy, it's the smoker guy, right? It's the smoking guy. I don't believe that. And if that makes me naive or foolish, so be it. And maybe you can prove me wrong. Otherwise, we're going to get back to the topics of the day. There's something you want to talk about. This is a great week to do it. This is a soft week for us because it's in between Christmas and New Year's. You can open up the lines, give me a call on anything. I got some stuff I want to talk to you about, but if you want to drive the conversation, I'll let you have the wheel for a little bit. It's 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Hit the text as well. I'll read some of those during the break. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Time. 'Cause this time piece is spinning.
Oh my goodness, Billy. Thank you for this. Little Red Rider here. Sammy Hagar, man, from back in the day. This is pre-Van Halen Sammy Hagar. The Red Rocker. I'm sorry. I said Rider because, of course, I'm a moron, but the Red Rocker. Fantastic to have him on here as our bumper music. 303-696-1971 is our number. I did say, listen, if you call in, we'll take you. We'll let you grab the wheel a little bit here. It's that special weekend between Christmas and New Year's where, yes, we have content and there are things I want to talk to you about, and I promise we're going to get to it. And frankly, Billy and I continue to talk about these things off the air. But when callers call in, I'm going to honor them by picking up the phone, whether they're regulars or brand newers or whatever. Be part of them. 303-696-1971. It's almost like an open lines, open mic kind of thing. I guess I don't want to call it that because everybody does that. But if you got a question, you got a thought, I want to entertain it. And to prove that point right now, we're going all the way to my home city of Lakewood, Colorado. And it's Joan. Joan, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Hello.
Did you have a nice holiday?
I did. Did you? Was Santa good to you?
Yeah, Santa was a little on the light side because I think things are a little bit dicey as far as what's coming up.
Uh-oh. Sounds like Joan thinks there's going to be a big R in 2023.
I don't know, but I think that, I'm part of the practical and objective fact people, and I like to deal with facts, and I'm not very good into the feeling kind of thing. So I'm not saying it's a feeling.
Yeah, go ahead.
I base this on the fact that they have messed with Gallagher,
Yes.
that our property taxes will be really incredibly wild.
Oh my God, they're going to be outrageous.
Right. So I don't think I'm off base by saying perhaps I need to save a little bit of Christmas to pay for my property taxes.
No, I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy at all. I worry about next year as well. And, it impacts everything from the radio in terms of advertisers and all that stuff to the other things that I do on the outside in the private sector. I have my own concerns, Joan. It didn't keep me from maybe spending like I'm a drunken sailor on behalf of the kids and stuff on Christmas, but I get your point.
Well, my kids are grown and, but I did have a good time with my parents.
Oh my gosh. Good for you to still have them around.
Yeah. I am very fortunate.
How old are mom and dad, Joan?
I can't say on the radio.
Why? Is there a law? Are they listening?
Yeah. My mother, if I told her age on the radio, I would be like disinherited.
Does she listen?
I don't know.
Okay, well, there you go. How about give it to us in a math equation, like 3 times 33 or something like that?
No, and you're distracting from why I called.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry.
But I called because I would like to have a kind of an explanation of what memorandum of understanding is and where it is in the legal realm.
Well, that depends. An MOU is something, and there's 2 different things that can take place between governmental entities. There's an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, and there's an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement. The IGA is, in my opinion, stronger and has more legal teeth to it. But when governments get together and want to do something, I'll give you a perfect example, and that is it's the Unified Metro Forensic Crime Lab. Now, I wish I could say the word on air. I could, because I'm not really cursing. But as you know, with acronyms, they tend to be sounded out, right? Other than the CIA or the FBI or DEA, those are so lame. But other people come up with acronyms, like we have a law enforcement organization out there called Raven, and they just tortured the letters RAVEN to come up with, the regional something. Everybody's got to come up with a word. Well, they didn't do that, and they should have sounded it out, because the Unified Metro Forensic Crime Lab, UMFCL. You can sound it out, Joan. It's umfuckle. That's exactly how it's pronounced. And there is a director of that lab, and the director of that lab is the dumbfuckle. I mean, that is exactly how it is sounded out when they're pronounced. It's not intended to be a curse word. It just sounds like one when you sound it out. And so the reason I bring that up is because that is the product of an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement that probably began with an MOU, a memorandum of understanding between Douglas County, Arapahoe County, the sheriff's offices of each, and I think we brought in Aurora as well, Aurora PD in the city of Aurora. So when all these governments want to get together, they have to have some basis to deal with each other. And it can't be like a normal contract like you and I would have, Joan. And so the memorandum of understanding, and that could exist in the private sector as well or between individuals, but it sets out these are the terms within good faith we intend to operate. And this is our memorandum of understanding to make sure that we're all on the same page. Whether or not that gets translated into a larger, more permanent agreement or contract, that's something else. Now, again, there's probably nuances to this I'm not familiar with because this ain't my ken. My ken is the criminal stuff. But does that help explain it? And what one were you thinking of?
So MOUs aren't criminal; they're civil. If they say
civil, 100%. Yeah, there's no such thing as an MOU in the criminal world.
Oh, okay. Because I'm sitting here going, they're saying things I think that are at least on the verge of not being. Let's just ignore this portion of the law.
Like who? Who are you talking about? Is this the Carrie Lake thing?
No, this is actually something I came across when I have a FOIA that I'm working with about the property in Lakewood.
Okay.
And while I was doing this, I also came across this new department that they have in the Colorado Department of Health. And it is the Department of Health Equity. Okay?
Department of Health Equity. That's interesting.
It is a very interesting thing. And they just started it, and there's some real problems with it because they started it without laying out some of the things that, having any way to have community input, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are boards that have public, things, but these people don't seem to have any ways of meeting and having public input. But anyway,
that sounds different than this thing and I left out one.
There's
also an MOA, a memorandum of agreement too. But anyway, that sounds different than this.
No, they made an MOU with the Federal Region 8 EPA.
Okay.
And they signed it last March.
All right.
And I'm going through it, and I'm just sitting here going, how legal is this? I mean, if you went in front of a judge and you said, but they're doing this with this MOU, what would be the standing of that? But I feel much better now that you've explained to me that it's civil.
Yeah, it's civil. It's not a criminal thing. I've never seen one in criminal, not at the federal or the state level. These tend to be civil things that have civil consequences for any claimed violations of them. But it's really about how, in my opinion, where I've used it is it's just about how governments get together and do certain things. And it's usually based on the MOU. There's simple ways to get out of the agreement in the future with notification and other stuff. But it could be small, it could be big. But Joan, it's great to hear your voice. I hope you're doing well.
I am, and I made eggnog pie.
What the heck?
For Christmas.
And?
I know, it was really bizarre.
When does it get here? I'm sorry. Was that what you were saying?
George, I would come and I would bring you either fudge or eggnog pie or whatever if you ever invited me. But I'm not sure I'd do it now with this video thing.
Oh, it's real. The video's real. If you don't go to YouTube, Joan, you're missing out. Please do.
Well, I got to tell you, the lid thing
just
didn't appeal to me as a woman.
You don't have to wear one. We're not making people wear a hat to get in here.
Well, no, that's not it. You're describing your lids, and quite honestly, women do not notice what men wear until it's too bizarre. Like when you were.
Are you sure? Or until it's off?
Until it's off.
Right.
And women don't dress for men; they dress for women.
What? I be honest with you, there are a lot of establishments in Denver where I don't think that's true. I don't know that that's true.
I don't know. There are the drag establishments where there are men dressing for men. But the point is that when your wife asks you if she looks fat in some kind of outfit,
never asked that question. Never has. I just quickly rush to looks great. I'm not even gonna. I'm just never ever gonna put myself in that position because, I just don't want to do it. I just really rush. That looks awesome. Yeah, it looks great. Wonderful. All
right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joan.
With me, and
we'll talk with you again probably in 2023. Joan, thank you so much. Hey, listen, Marvin and everyone else on hold at 303-696-1971. And guess what? Joan's line is open. You can fill it during this short break. We'll come back to you in just a moment. I'll get to some of these texts as well. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler right back with you here on the George Show, 710 KNUS. I love our texters, man. You can always hit us on the app, of course. and on the 710knus.com website. Here's one. Does this text make my ass look big? I think the answer is yes, it does. Here's some text from our good friends out there in Nebraska. I'm sure right now they're cringing that I'm going to read this. I'll tell you, I've been watching you on YouTube. You guys have gotten old. Wow. I wouldn't have recognized you, especially Billy. Now, clearly, Billy, this is a prior parole officer or something.
Yeah, that's this. I'm sorry. I apologize to those in Nebraska. I've really kind of let myself go from my dancer days in college. Yes.
Now, she didn't say you're out of shape. She just said you're looking old.
Oh, I understand. I know exactly what it meant. I get it. I understand that sometimes this is not for sharing. I still appreciate that my wife lets me see her naked every so often. I mean, believe me, I understand the woman is doing God's work. Yeah, God's work. Yes, it is not easy. This is, yeah.
So I responded, is it the gray hair, that kind of thing? And a very sweet response. I think it's the stress of the job. You're still handsome. You do look like a younger version of George Papard.
Oh.
Billy does look like, wait for it, Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks.
Oh, I was going for Chris Gaines.
And now says, I'm feeling bad now. I'm looking for poise. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Shout out to all those Garth Brooks fans that understand the Chris Gaines reference. I appreciate you guys. Love you. You're my people.
We're going to have to hear some cowboy music for the Nebraska folks. Listen, we're going to go to the phone lines. Marvin, you're on 710 KNUS. Marvin, what do you got for us?
Howdy there, Squire Brauchler.
Hey, sir.
Couple of weird things. It's fun listening to you guys roll around at the end of the year like this, so I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Radio.
Yeah, thank you.
First of all, I have to holler howdy to old timer Uncle Ray. He turned genuine 85 years old.
Oh, congrats! That's a big one. That's a big one. I think he can drive.
Oh yeah, he still drives. He custom designs carburetors to put on the car, and he's experimenting with batteries and. There's no stopping Uncle Ray.
Nice, man. Well, what did you want to talk about, my friend?
Well, I figured since you kicked them blinds wide open, you opened yourself up to a conspiracy call, Marvin. So I'm going to visit one on you here, Squire.
Let's do it.
And I'm going to needle you about the profession you have chosen.
Radio?
And wonders if Squire Brauchler is a member of the bar, the British Accreditation Registry.
The who?
Oh, I'll ask it again, sir. Sorry, I'll try to ask it more clearly.
The British What's the British Accreditation Registry?
British Accreditation Registry, BAR.
You know, I don't know what that organization is, and I've never been a member.
Okay. Well, then let me ask you this. And sorry, I don't mean to.
No. You done me.
Here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you consider yourself a member of the bar since you operate as a lawyer?
Well, I've been to a bar, but let me answer it this way. When you say a member of the bar, like to practice law in the state of Colorado or really any jurisdiction, you have to be admitted to the bar. And what that means is whether it's through something called pro hoc vice, which is if I'm out of state, another attorney has to vouch for me and they'll sit and watch me, make sure I don't go crazy in court, or just through licensing. So when I take the bar exam, that is offered by the Supreme Court of the state of Colorado. And if I pass that exam and I take the appropriate oath, then I get admitted to the bar. But that's different from like the Colorado Bar Association or the American Bar Association. I'm not a member of either of those organizations.
And thank you for that. Thank you for that, sir. I have a somewhat greater understanding, and you give me a little bit more homework to do. So I will.
Sure.
I'll keep updating myself on that, sir.
Okay.
And there's concerning that last topic, I'll try to go quick. Two more quick topics here.
Sure.
There was a really interesting lawsuit that came up a couple months ago. I failed to exercise my diligence at that time, but there was an individual troublemaker at the citizen level like Marvin is.
Yeah.
And they figured out a weird way in the Constitution to really raise a ruckus. I want to say it was, I can't remember now, sir. It was either Michigan or I might have been one of the Dakotas. At any rate, some wise guy there, I think it was a lady, as a matter of fact,
Wise gal.
She was doing her boning up on the Constitution, and she recognized that a lot of these lawyers that were doing all the crookedness for the Democrat Party
sure
were not registered members as enemy agents, as agents of a foreign something or other.
Okay.
And what
substance?
What she was driving at was whether these individuals had registered with the state that they had some or other legal ties or connections with. And they said no, nobody did, and the Secretary of State played dumb. So this lady came up with a FOIA and got everyone with their pants down, because by her constitutional reckoning, and I heard the legal eagles discussing this on the air.
Sure.
She had been dead to rights with all these lawyers in that state, none of them properly registered to practice law legally. So that was interesting. And then one more quick one, sir, and this is a bombshell. I should have led with this. What awareness have you, sir, of the upcoming court docket for January 6th? And it is a blockbuster. And I'll pause and let you answer no.
No, I don't know what's going on with the January 6th stuff at the Supreme Court level. I think that President Trump's team has appealed something to them that they've agreed to hear. And I want to say in May, but I don't know the substance of it.
Yeah, I wish Trump had enough on the ball to figure out how to challenge anything. But I'm afraid he took his...
Tell me about it. What's the significance of it?
It's a blockbuster significance. No case like this has ever been heard by the court. If the court finds constitutionally, there's an excellent chance. You'll
go ahead.
Up on these.
What happens if whoever wins?
If whoever wins by the letter of the law.
Yeah. Then
Biden, Harris, Pelosi, 380 other Congress critters out the door for violating their oath of office.
Yep. I'm going to make a prediction without knowing anything more than that description. Never happens.
Well, I'll give it to you in 30 seconds, sir.
Okay.
So the four brothers in Utah by the name of Brunson.
Okay.
They got tired of watching the legal system run roughshod over everybody and give us a kitty sniffer who nobody wants in there.
Sure.
So they says, no, we'll try 4 different ways to get on the ballot. We'll all take a slightly different tack from citizens as citizens. So you do it this way, you do it this way, I'll do it this way, and you do it this way. And they put 4 lawsuits in effect in Utah, starting from the bottom. They got shot down, except 2 of them didn't get shot down.
Okay.
One of them is still in the system, and one of them has found its way to the Supreme Court. Okay.
Okay.
So, so now you'll have to look up on this.
I'm going to have to do it.
Discussing this all week, sir. And so if the case comes through, they are simply saying this particular case says.
Do you know the name of the case, Marvin? And then you're going to hear the music play here in a second.
Brunson, Brunson.
Let me take a look at it. And Marvin, I got to cut you loose because we're out of time. I love the phone call. Thank you, man, especially during this Wednesday in the middle of this great week. I'll take a look at it, Brunson, see what's out there. But based on your description of the aftermath of a decision going a certain way, I predict there's no chance that's going to happen. That's just me. Listen, when we come back, there'll be you. Callers at 303-696-1971. The text to George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KUS. George Brauchler right back with you here at 710 KNUS. We are halfway through the Hump Day show in that week between Christmas and New Year's. I think over the next couple days after today, we're going to get into some year in review type stuff and the prognostication stuff. I'd love to hear your opinions on that. And especially if you've never been a caller to the show before, now is the time to break the seal on that bad boy and call us at 303-696-1971 over the course of these next few days. And we get the opportunity to talk with you about whatever. And I encourage that because, as you know from listening to the show, of course, it is a dreamlike state to get to just listen to me drone on and on about my pontifications on different legal issues or political issues. I get it. But for me, and I think for you, the best part of the show are the conversations that we have. Some of them we can do by text. Some of them we can do on air. And I think the ones that we do on air tend to be the best ones. And they help me think about stuff, and hopefully they're provocative for you as well. Now, one of the issues that I want to get into here is something that the Supreme Court did yesterday. This thing is hot off the presses, and they issued an opinion. I guess it's an order. It's not really a full opinion in a case called Arizona et al. Et al, of course, is Latin for and a whole bunch of other people, versus Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security. And of course, the Secretary of Homeland Security is responsible for things like, immigrations, customs, border patrol, that kind of stuff. And so sure enough, there is a border to the south of us that has become porous. It was so porous, in fact, that the suggestion that we might build a wall to protect us from this really unfettered access to our country from folks who just simply don't want to follow the laws or the rules got somebody in part elected to be president back in 2016. That wall was never fully completed. It certainly wasn't paid for by Mexico as was promised, but nonetheless, this has been an ongoing issue for America. Enter COVID. COVID happens, and then President Trump issues an order under Title 42. We're going to call it the Title 42 policy that said, hey, because there's this health emergency that exists, we are going to stop people who are seeking refugee status or asylum or anything else from coming into this country. You can stay in Mexico until we get this stuff resolved. And we have to do it as a matter of emergency. Well, as you know, there's great controversy about that. There were many people who did not think there was a health emergency at the time. There were many of the people that doubted the COVID shots and all that other stuff. And sure enough, a couple of years later, even the federal government says, we don't think there's an emergency either. We just don't think there's an emergency. That emergency having been abated, dissipated, minimized, whatever word you want to use, that makes the basis for that Title 42 policy no longer relevant, no longer applicable. And so the federal government under President Joe Biden in April of 2022, that's just 8 months ago, said, we're no longer going to enforce it. We're no longer going to enforce the stay in Mexico policy. And so there were some appeals that took place to this that have been brewing, and there were some arguments that took place. And sure enough, a district court in D.C., and there's three courts. There's district court, circuit court, which is like a court of appeals, I guess, and then all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. A federal district court in D.C., that's the trial court level, said, we don't care what you're thinking of doing, federal government, whether you're going to suspend enforcement of this or not. I'm going to order you to suspend enforcement because in its current application, it is arbitrary and capricious. There is no justification for keeping this going. 19 attorneys general in the United States. That's a lot. 19, not including the one from Colorado, if you can imagine, then filed a series, I guess, amicus and a bunch of other cases here that resulted in this, the one led by Arizona, against Homeland Security to say, whoa, you cannot stop enforcing this policy. You just can't do it. The district court decision comes down and says, oh, yes, he can because it's arbitrary and capricious. And now there was a direct appeal to the United States Supreme Court saying we're going to stay the order by the district court. And we're going to require, in essence, the federal government's policy to continue on to stand. And so if you'll remember, there's a ton of news coverage. I mean, Fox had covered this a ton, CNN, MSNBC, not so much, but there is a huge border crisis. As we're sitting here right now, as I'm talking to you. I'm looking on air, and Fox News is covering this temporary halting of this. And who do they have on camera? Mark Brnovich, the current attorney general. He's about to be outgoing. He lost that senatorial primary to the person that ended up going on to get crushed by the astronaut. But he's on here explaining this whole thing. And so you saw all the news coverage about, listen, we're about to get into chaos territory right here. Like, we have seen epic numbers, historic numbers of people coming across the border, and it's only going to get worse. They're massing on the I mean, this is a potential catastrophe, especially for the border towns. They're overwhelmed by this, both in terms of the social services demands, the crime that flows from this. And so we've seen the response by the federal government be to load up people on buses and drive them to places like Martha's. Oh, no. It was wrong. It was wrong when Governor DeSantis did it. But it's okay for President Biden and others to load them up and drive them to Denver. And a story that was on Fox News as we were on the air in the last hour was a Fox News national reporter standing in Denver saying that the Denver immigrant thing, the dumping off of these immigrants, is creating a crisis. So there's no question that we're getting close to something like an emergency, but it's not an emergency that is occasioned by COVID or any other sort of health disaster, which was the basis for this Title 42 policy. So I'm setting the stage for this. So yesterday, the Supreme Court stays the district court, the Washington, D.C. District Court's decision to suspend enforcement of Title 42. And it did so on a 5-4 vote. And in it, and this particular opinion, it was I think drafted by the Chief Justice. Let me see here. It says the application for state presented to the Chief Justice and by him referred to the court is granted. So the Chief Justice, I think John Roberts, along with 4 other members of what are called the conservative portion of the bench, voted to stay that order. Now, they say things in there, and it's only a 3-page order. You can read it. It's online. It says the stay itself does not prevent the federal government from taking any action with respect to that policy. It is merely limited to the question of the court's intervention on this. And so they stay it. There's going to be a broader argument on this thing. But what's important about this opinion is that in the 4 that vote against it, and anytime in this current court you see a 5-4 ruling, what you know is one of the members of the quote-unquote conservative majority, because it's a 6-3 majority, have drifted over to the libs, drifted over to the progressives. And in this case, it wasn't Chief Justice Roberts. It was Neil Gorsuch, Colorado's Neil Gorsuch. And so I read this opinion. It's actually the lengthier part of what the Supreme Court issues. It's 2 pages. And it's joined by, he joined Sotomayor and Kagan in dissenting on this. And Justice Jackson joined Gorsuch's opinion. And that's interesting too. And Gorsuch says, no, it is wrong for the Supreme Court to intervene on this. And I think my initial reaction when I heard that the Supreme Court was staying the suspension of that policy was like, thank God. I mean, thank God we are getting crushed with these immigrant issues. They're not going away. And it's not like, oh, we'll take care of this next month. There's going to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of extra people that come across the border while Congress dithers. And you know it's not going away. We're not going to go find these people and ship them back to where they should have gone. And please don't get me into a discussion about how the whole amnesty refugee thing works, because as you know, you don't pick the country you want to go be a refugee in. The way international law works is you go to the very first country you can. That ain't America, folks, unless you're in Mexico already. Unless you're a Mexican, you don't get to be a refugee in America because you call your shot. You got to stop, let's say, at Mexico or some other country along that Central American chain. But that's not what's going on. That don't get me started on that. It bothers me that we're defending the decision to violate international and United States law because we're just America and everybody wants to be here, and that's good enough. That's not good enough. That's not how it's never been that way. Not even in the days of Ellis Island. That's just not how it works. We shipped people back to Europe from Ellis Island because they didn't meet some criteria that we had, or they brought with them something we didn't want. That happened all the time. So let's stop pretending that the Statue of Liberty says, we don't care who you are or what you bring. We'll take everybody. Those may be some of the words. That is never how we have approached immigration in America. Nonetheless, here we are. And I felt great about it. Like, yeah, let's stop it. Let's figure this thing out. But then Gorsuch comes out with this opinion. And I read this thing, And at the conclusion of it, folks, my opinion is I agree with Justice Gorsuch. And it doesn't matter to me that Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson are on the same side. His logic makes sense to me. He describes this stay in these terms. This stay would effectively require the federal government to continue enforcing the Title 42 orders indefinitely. He's right. Until the Supreme Court were to take action or Congress were to get off of its butt and do something about immigration, this stay by the Supreme Court could last forever and could require the federal government to have these Title 42 orders in place indefinitely. That can't be how government works in this circumstance, especially when those Title 42 orders were predicated on a serious danger and health emergency that everybody agrees no longer exists. It's fascinating. I read it. I thought, well, you're right. And he puts in here, the emergency on which those orders were premised has long since lapsed. This is a quote. It is hardly obvious why we should rush in to review a ruling on a motion to intervene in a case concerning emergency decrees that have outlived their shelf life. And so what Neil Gorsuch is capturing in this is something that I have adhered to and believed in, and I'm in the business of. And that is, here in America, it is the process that matters, not the outcome. We are not a Machiavellian ends justify the means way of going about this. And what Gorsuch is saying in so many words is exactly that the majority here has said, this is the outcome we want. How do we work backwards? Well, I despise that. That's not the criminal justice system. It's not even the civil justice system. The procedure guarantees due process, equal protection, and ultimately the outcome, whether we agree or disagree with it, it provides what we consider to be justice. Well, when Gorsuch explains this, I got to tell you, I'm convinced. He says, the states contend that they face an immigration crisis at the border, and policymakers have failed to agree on adequate measures to address it. And he says that the state's argument is the only means left to mitigate the crisis is an order from this court directing the federal government to continue its COVID-era Title 42 policies as long as possible. Okay. And then he says, I don't discount the state's concerns. But then this is the ultimate part of this. In fact, it's the last two sentences of this that matter. Maybe it's three sentences. The current border crisis is not a COVID crisis, and courts should not be in the business of perpetuating administrative edicts designed for one emergency only because elected officials have failed to address a different emergency. We are a court of law, not policymakers of last resort. Boom. I mean, if you're an immigration is the only issue that matters thing and justify the means, that none of those words matter to you. But to me, man, that brought it home. I'm sold. I think the majority got this wrong. And while I'm thankful that there's a policy in place that has been twisted and tortured because it keeps at bay at least some of those who want to pour across the border and make themselves dependent upon us, I think Gorsuch is right. I mean, we have full lines right now to talk about this, and I want to get to this. 303-696-1971. Is this the right outcome? Do you agree with Gorsuch? Because at the end of the day, if you believe in judicial restraint, Neil Gorsuch and the three libs, and I'm sure the three libs don't agree with them on his role. It's interesting, by the way, that Ketanji Brown Jackson joined in Gorsuch's dissent. Sotomayor and Kagan did not, right? Like they simply voted, hey, we don't agree with the stay. But Ketanji Brown Jackson agreed with Gorsuch on this. If you believe in judicial restraint, then you cannot champion what the majority has done. This is going to come up again. Billy and I were talking off air that Biden's, hey, I'm going to forgive a $1 kajillion worth of student loans because I think it's the right thing to do. And there's a crisis and I'm going to use the emergency thing from the COVID. We're all going to root for that to fail, right? Not because we don't think there shouldn't be relief, but because you can't manufacture a power that Congress didn't give you to do it. That's where we're at here. If you think that Biden's administratively executive order imposed loan forgiveness should fail because Congress never gave him authority, then by God, you ought to root for Gorsuch and Ketanji Brown Jackson on this opinion, because this is the opinion that captures the exact same sentiment. If Congress has a moral and legal obligation to act, then get on it. But do not turn to the Supreme Court to rescue you from a broken Congress or from a Congress that dithers and chooses politics over a pragmatic political outcome, whatever it is. Get rid of it. This should not be the function of, I'm convinced, man, I'm convinced. Here's what I want to do. Normally we go a little bit longer than this. I don't want to take any callers and then cut them loose because within 2 minutes, Billy's going to say we got to cut away for a break. I don't want to do that. So Johnny, David, Frank, and everybody else trying to come in, and I'll keep looking at the text that keep pouring in as well. I promise you I will get to you. Let me do this, though, and this will give us a little more time on another end of this thing. I want to tell you about this real estate market. And by the way, I look at rates all the time. I'm constantly looking at the real estate market because for me, it's a little bit of a canary in the coal mine for the economy. And given all the tinkering going around with the federal government, there's some question marks here about what's going to happen with property values long-term. Joan touched on it with her talk about Gallagher going the way of the dodo. And also, is now the right time to sell your house if it's a discretionary move, or do you have to make the sale and then get into your house? What if it's the dream house? Great. If it's the next house, so be it. But these are tough waters to do on your own. And man, if you're going to pull the trigger, if you're going to go down this road, you want to consult the subject matter expert in the metro area on this. And that person is Gay Ribble and her Empowered Home team of Keller Williams Realty. These are folks that do it at the highest level. And frankly, the volume is real. And it's not because they work in volume. It's because people keep calling them and saying, help me figure this out, make this as stress-free as possible. And they do it and they keep delivering. And then word of mouth becomes, and then you join the family. And pretty soon you're relying on Gay the way I rely upon Gay. And it's a good reliance because she's the kind of person that will back up her promises and her guarantees in writing. And I'll give you an example. She has 100% of asking price guarantee program. That's right. You agree upon the asking price, guarantee that they're going to get it, and even within the time frame that you agree upon. And if that doesn't work out, they make it right with a cash offer that you will accept. And the reason they're able to do that is because their confidence flows from the fact that they have 14,000 plus home buyers in waiting. In her website says it, gayhasthebuyers.com. It's because she does in their home buyers in waiting program. You list with Gay, boom, 14,000 people get notified of your house being available and people move on it. You want to get into a new home? Gay knows. She knows the properties that are listed and the properties that are going to be listed before they're listed. Get in early and get out early. That's gayhasthebuyers.com. Gay is G-A-Y-E, hasthebuyers.com. But do yourself a favor. After you check out the website, pick up the phone and dial 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, and check them out. And then call and let us know how awesome the experience was. I love getting those phone calls, and we do get them from time to time. Share with us your experience. I love it. It's gayhasthebuyers.com. George Brauchler with The George Show, 710 KNUS. Yeah, of course it is. Here's our cowboy song for those that requested that. I guess we're taking music requests now for bumper music, and Billy just does it because he loves the listeners. George Brauchler with you here on the George Show 710 KNUS. Lines are full, and I want to get to them as I promised. Johnny, you're on 710. What do you think, sir?
That's a classic by Garth Brooks.
Boom.
Yeah, without a demand and a want for, when people say like sex trafficking and drugs are coming over the border, if there's not somebody here in place to pay for that stuff, then that stuff will go away. And I'm thinking, like, who are
What's
the people
that stuff?
here?
What do you mean that stuff?
Okay. Oh, I hear people say, oh, there's sex trafficking, 5 and 6 year olds and women and young boys. Well, somebody's buying it here. And then I hear all these fentanyl pills are coming over, but somebody is buying it here. And I never hear about who are those people buying it, because if you knock at my door and you want to sell me a donut and I don't want it, and I keep saying no, eventually you'll go away. But
to find someone else who will buy the donut.
Right. But they keep coming. So somebody here is hiring these people under the table for cash.
But that's undeniable. Johnny, that's undeniable. But tell me, it's an intriguing point, but we're not going to stop those things. I mean, there is we can increase enforcement, and I'm supportive of that, but there isn't going to be a way we wish away the demand for cheaper labor or the sex trafficking victims or the drugs. So, I mean, but I want to ask you this. Do you believe that is the bulk of the immigration issue that we're seeing at the border, that these are either people being sex trafficked, they're muling drugs, or something else?
I don't think it's the bulk. Like I said, I'm coming back from Amsterdam. I'll be back in the USA tomorrow. And I see that
you're in Amsterdam right now?
Yeah.
You are calling us from Amsterdam. Johnny, you're my favorite caller of this segment. Thank you so much.
Well, yeah. And I
don't make me ask you about the red light district, but go on.
Yeah. I'm down there. I've been there. Okay, I know the nuance of what's going on. So I see this regulated here very well.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, how can we not get this right or figure this out in the USA? Obviously, they're coming for many reasons. Like I said, people are getting paid on the table to work here in the United States because getting fake IDs. And I keep wondering, like, if it wasn't set up here in such a way that.
So are you saying if we regulated it here, we would have a better outcome on the border? Like, do you want to see it regulated?
No, I'm saying if we regulated it here, well, in America, we would get more out of it than just complaining that our borders open.
Yeah. What about, and I guess what I'm getting to is, what percentage, best guess, of these people pouring across the border are quote unquote refugees? And they could be refugees from economic conditions. I'm not saying they're all in war-torn countries and all that stuff. I think that has really been stretched to its limits. But how many of them do you think are here for a criminal issue versus something else?
Taking a hell of a guess, I would say maybe 10 to 15%.
Okay. Well, I'd love to know the answer to that too, because I agree that we got to tackle the demand for the things that flow from the South. I agree we got to do that. I just don't think that's going to be an end to this. There's got to be something more comprehensive and certain than that. But let me give you a little bit of advice, Johnny. I don't know how many times you've been to Amsterdam. Is this your first?
Yeah, this is my first. My wife suggested we go, and here we are.
God bless her. Did she go through the red light district with you? And that's not weird, by the way. If you've been down there, it's a tourist thing.
You think she's going to let me go by myself?
No. Well, maybe you were like, hey, I got to run out and go get some space cake, and then you take a quick tour. But let me just give you two quick pieces of advice.
No.
For your soul, if you've gone to the red light district, you absolutely have to go to the Anne Frank house. You got to do it, because there's no way you can be in the same town and go to one. And you know what I mean? Like it's almost like you got to bounce it up. But here's the other thing. I went on a tour of that place after going to the Anne Frank house. And if you guys haven't gone to the Rijksmuseum, you need to go to that too. And our tour guide was the brother-in-law of another one of my officers. And he wasn't an officer of mine anymore, but a friend. And he said, I can't do his accent, but he's like, just be aware of the blue light ladies. And I'm like, well, blue lights, like Walmart? And he goes, no, the blue light ladies are ladies who have had certain work done. And I'm like, oh, you mean like, breast enhancement or something? I don't care about that. And he goes, no, they're ladies. They may not have always been ladies. And I'm like, boom, buddy.
Yeah.
That is the tip of the tour right there. That is something you got to put out there.
I tell you a secret. I used to be a DJ, and you have to worry about that in Denver as well.
They don't wear the blue lights either. Johnny, thank you so much for the phone call, especially from Amsterdam. Johnny's line is open, 303-696-1971. If you go to Amsterdam, I'm telling you, re-listen to this part of the podcast. That's real. You have to go to the Anne Frank house if you're going red light district. Otherwise, you're a bad person. And 2 blue lights. Just be aware of them. David, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think, David?
Oh, howdy, George. By the way, happy New Year's.
Yeah, happy New Year.
Yeah, did I ever tell you that big money will get you killed?
Say that again? I wish I had big money, but what is it?
Well, big money will get you killed. And, Colorado's got a lot of examples of that.
Okay.
Ludlow, where big money said, get back to work or you're dead. Call out the National Guard if you go on strike. Big money will let you die in the winter. And so when you look at Title 42, it was designed to deal with COVID. It was a bad policy to begin with.
Title 42, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so Title 42 was Trump's bigoted way of saying, we're not going to let any immigrants into this country, and we'll come up with an excuse of COVID. And that, because COVID exists, we're going to make sure that nobody comes into America. Well, that was a lot of horse crap because, you could get in on any airport from France or from England or anywhere else. And if you had the money, big money will get you killed, and they'll kill poor people. And so
what does that mean? I don't understand. So your argument is if you came in from France or England, you would not have any sort of limitations on your ability to gain access to the country, and then poor people get killed. I missed that connection.
Title 42 is designed to keep people out of the country, right? During a medical epidemic, COVID-19. Now, if you read Gorsuch, and Gorsuch is not a liberal, he actually was doubling down on the bigotry. He was saying that
not in this order.
Yeah, sure he was.
Not at all.
He's doubling down on it because he wants to keep the immigrants out, but he doesn't want the excuse of COVID to do it. And so,
wait a minute, what language? You got to point this to me. If you've read the opinion, David, what language are you looking at that has Neil Gorsuch doubling down on bigotry? Because I've read this thing twice. I don't see it.
Well, let's see. I've got it right here in front of me. Let's see. I got to back up one page.
That's all right.
This is from the Hill, and
no, not from the Hill. I'm looking at the actual opinion.
Well, he basically Gorsuch thinks that Title 42 should not be the excuse for keeping immigrants out. Gorsuch says that COVID is over, which is another big lie. COVID is not over. Los Angeles lost 70 people.
Well, hang on. The federal government doesn't even defend this on the grounds that COVID is still a real emergency. They're not the ones defending it. They want to get rid of it. Biden's people are saying, yeah, COVID isn't around enough for this to be an emergency anymore. It's the state attorneys general from 19 states who are saying, whoa. You do that, and it's like the little Dutch boy pulling his finger out of the immigration dike. We're going to have a real mess here.
Right.
So
yeah. So again,
you're not reading it right, man.
That this is an issue of white trash. This is an issue of white trash wants to keep Hispanics out of the country, and it's also big money.
Hold on. Get back to the Gorsuch is doubling down on bigotry. Where is that language?
He wants to keep the immigrants out of the country, but he doesn't.
Where do you read that, man? There's no words he puts. I'm looking at the 3-page opinion here. He's good for 2 of it. Where are you reading that?
I've got the Hill in front of me.
The Hill is an interpretation of something. I'm looking at the language, brother. I do not see it.
COVID should not be in the business of perpetuating administrative edicts designed for one emergency only because elected officials have failed to address a different emergency.
Yeah, that's right. That's his word.
Immigrants, in his eyes, the immigrants are an emergency, right? So he wants to keep immigrants out of the country, which is big money, will get you killed.
David,
and
David, legal immigrants are not an emergency, and he doesn't say that. What he is doing is suggesting and adopting for only purposes of the legal analysis what the states have said. And the states have said, holy smokes, we're going to get crushed by this. We have to have something in place. And he's accepting that for purposes of saying, you don't get to say we have one emergency here. Let's use one that doesn't exist anymore as a basis to address it. That is not him doubling down on bigotry.
Yes, he is. He doesn't he's saying that the phrase failed to address a different emergency. So he's saying that immigrants are an emergency.
No, he's not. He's not saying, and nobody's saying immigration is an emergency. What they're saying is illegal immigration pouring over the border. That may be an emergency.
So in the big picture, and this is going to come up next year because the Republicans are going to handle the purse in the House, and they're going to cut the budget for the border. And
Republicans are?
Well, of course they are.
Not a chance.
They're going to make sure that the borders are going to be starved so that fewer immigrants can come across legally, right?
Wait a minute. Hold on. How is cutting the budget for the Border Patrol going to keep immigrants out?
Staffing the proper immigration offices, not the guards, not the building of the fence, and which is more white trash. And by the way, you remember NAFTA, right? NAFTA was put together so that we would be a happy family of the United States, Mexico, and Canada, and that we would raise the wages of all three countries so that NAFTA would be a happy harmony of the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Well, right away, it got the bigots got in there and made sure that Mexico could not take part in NAFTA.
David, is it bigoted to have an immigration policy? Is it bigoted to say that we're going to try to preclude people from coming into this country till you can legally prove that you should be here? Is that bigoted?
And if you're a Canadian before 9/11, you could walk across without any problem, right?
I have no idea, buddy.
Back and forth.
What about now? What about the reality of right now?
Back and forth. COVID is different, and Canada doesn't want.
I'm not even talking COVID, man. I'm just saying, is it bigoted for America to say we're going to limit who gets to come into the country and under what conditions? Is that bigoted?
Well, you want Title 42 to continue.
Dude,
right?
I'm just asking a question, man. All you got to do is answer it. All you got to do is answer it.
Title 42 is COVID, right? Title 42 is about COVID.
David, I'm not asking you about 42 because that's the next question. This first question is important.
You asked me about COVID. You said
I didn't, buddy.
Title 42 is about COVID.
I didn't ask you about COVID. I asked you about, is it bigoted for us to have an immigration policy that says who can come in and when and limits that? Is that bigoted?
NAFTA. It violates NAFTA.
For us to have an immigration policy, it does not. NAFTA does not set our immigration policy.
Happy family of the United States, Mexico, and Canada.
Buddy, that may be your interpretation of its goals, but that is not the language of the law.
It was supposed to set it up so that American factories could go down to Mexico and hire Mexicans to build product in Mexico, but that they would then be able to take part in America and not be kept like chattel.
That was all going to be regulated, by the way, by the different countries, like things like work visas and stuff.
Big money shafted us with NAFTA. It set it up so that they could go down there and set up factories, but nobody could escape them. And so that the wages in Mexico would be kept artificially low because of the bigots.
Oh my God. Why is it about bigots, man? Can you just answer the question, David? I'm going to give you one more chance. Is it bigoted for America to have an immigration policy that says who can come in and under what circumstances? Is that bigoted?
Where shall the Son of Man lay his head?
Thanks, buddy. David, I appreciate the phone call. What I don't appreciate is the constant dodging of an easy, obvious question. And I'll give you the only answer anyone listening to this show would give, and that is, it is not bigoted to have an immigration policy that limits who can come here and under what circumstances. That's the definition of a country and border integrity. And every country on the planet Earth engages in the same analysis on a daily basis, and not as a function of bigotry. David, I don't know where you're going with your comments, but to have said that Gorsuch doubled down on bigotry with his words, dude, that's crack smoke crazy. And you referencing some Hill opinion piece or whatever makes no sense at all, man. If you want to bring the accusations, bring the proof too, brother. Bring the proof too. David's line is open, 303-696-1971. We'll look at a lot of text coming in too. You can hit us at 710KNUS app and 710KNUS.com. Frank, everybody else on hold, I promise I'll get to you after this quick break. It's George Brauchler on The George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS. Classic George Strait here. I think Billy is flirting with our Nebraska listeners because the texts that keep coming in are actually generating changes to the bumper music.
One tester said that Garth Brooks wasn't enough of a cowboy, which I submit that's okay. So we got a real cowboy.
Yeah. Well, and I love all my exes live in Texas. It's hard to beat that. That's back when country music gave a crap about rhyming. You know what I mean? Exes in Texas. I mean, it fits. Now it's if it has any of the same letters in the word, they'll rhyme them just through some sort of guttural noise. It's ridiculous. Anyway, here's some text. I find it hilarious that these guys that call in like David and Don don't ever answer questions, but always have something to say and can't just listen instead of waiting to answer. George, you're way too nice. Keep up the good work. I appreciate that. No, I'm very patient because I do want to have the conversation. I'm not looking to make anybody look bad or feel bad. I really am looking to explore the information that's given. What I simply cannot abide, though, is if I ask a question and it's a relatively easy one to answer and nobody can answer it without going to some other analogy, hypothetical, or question, that's not good conversation. It wouldn't help in person. It certainly won't help on the radio. Well, you boys are after my own heart this morning. George, every time he calls your show, I listen for the host to set him up to hang himself. You did a good job. Yeah, I mean, listen, I appreciate David's position. We need to have conversations like that. But and you got to at least give the foundational answer that there should. And my takeaway is David believes in open borders. That is my conclusion from his inability to answer, is that there should be no borders. There should be no countries. There should just be an America that provides for anyone and everyone who just wants to come here. That, of course, leads to chaos. That's not the issue on the table. The issue on the table is, does the Supreme Court act as a policy-making body when Congress fails, or is it for some other purpose? Frank, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think, Frank?
You know, George, I think Billy needs to play us some Neil Diamond, Coming to America.
Here we go. Wait for it in the 9 o'clock. Billy will find it. He'll do it.
You know, David always throws us off a little bit when he calls in with his left-wing prejudging mind and condemning mind of any open suggestion that you might have. And how dare you try to insult him with law, order, and rules and regulation.
I think there's room to have a discussion about what the limits of our immigration policy should be and who gets in, but to simply avoid the question of should we even have one, that's crazy.
I think that's what should come out of all this. You know that since nothing has been done for the last 100 years, there has to be money in the equation somewhere. And people and congressmen are getting bought off. But Gorsuch is a very brilliant guy, well-worded, and I think you're right about his position on this particular thing. But you could pick any one of 50 diseases, illnesses, other things. I think there's a short, medium, and long-term impact of immigration. And at least if we could lay that out on the table and find out those pros and cons, the short term, medium, and long term of immigration, and have these questionnaires. What do you want to do when you come to America? And do you just want to get on the gravy train, or do you want to contribute? And hopefully, if they want to contribute, which I think probably the majority do, it will be a net gain to this country. And even Trump said he wanted merit-based immigration, which is just common sense. And now he gets labeled racist for that. But I think the Immigration Service has probably got a lot of rules. I don't know immigration law, but maybe you could get an immigration lawyer on to talk to about that.
Yeah, it might be worth getting that conversation started with someone who's a subject matter expert. You know, Alexa had texted in something during the conversation that I think you and I have probably said out loud in other situations, and that is, what other country on the planet Earth has that kind of permissive immigration policy that these people want to force upon America? Like, who else treats it? Like, if you tried to break into Germany or England or China or whatever, they don't just go, well, you're probably looking for a better life.
But
they go, get out.
One of the bigger things here going forward, and you know this being in the Republican Party and maybe Randy too, if we don't get somebody like Hermit in there who's well thought out, well stated, and start taking a more aggressive posture, I think it's going to have to be our lawyers against their lawyers who have resulted in the state that we're in now with all their subversion of the law and twisting of the law and doing things. idea.
But Frank, you're highlighting, I think, what Gorsuch tried to capture here, and that is that the battle over this policy should not be in a courtroom. It shouldn't be a bunch of attorneys standing before a bunch of unelected lifetime tenured judges and justices. This should take place in Congress. This should take place in the Capitol, where the Senate and the House beat the hell out of each other trying to come up with a policy that really pleases nobody perfectly, but comes up with some sort of an answer. I'm really taken with that. I mean, I'm a bit concerned that we have 5 other members of the quote unquote conservative majority who have so willingly jumped into the fray here, when if we're looking for judicial restraint, this ain't it.
That is the way to handle it, but it is always suppressed because of the financial interest of both political parties. So it gets suppressed. I would like to see it come to the fore at a public forum so people could talk about these things. And that's the way it's going to eventually get hammered out.
Yeah, I want more of this kind of a Neil Gorsuch approach from more of these people, and not just on this issue. Because I'll tell you what, he's going to take the same approach, and my guess is, to the Biden forgiveness of $1 kajillion worth of student loans on our backs, and we're going to cheer him and say, that's exactly right. And yet here, I think we have a lot of people who are like, but wait, we have a crisis down there. Someone must do something. And I think Gorsuch's answer is, that's right, but it's Congress. Don't look at us, man. We're not here for that. We're here for something else.
Yeah, how do you get them, or how do you have them act?
I think the crisis has to build to a place where, and I want to tell you, this is going to be fixed in a month or a week or a year. One, you need people with political courage who are willing to vote for something, even if they think it may cost them in the reelection. Or if not, we're going to have to go through a series of congressmen and congresswomen until we find those who have the guts to act and act in the best interests of America on this issue. We don't have that right now. And I'm telling you, with a Senate one way and a House the other, and the president that we have, I'm not convinced we're going to get there.
There's got to be some governmental studies out there that have already looked at the short-term, medium-term, and long financial impact on this country of immigrants. I'd like to see those brought to the light.
Well, I would too. And there's probably some positive things as well. It's not all negative. I don't agree with Johnny that everybody that's coming across the border is here for sexual exploitation, drugs, or something else. But at the same time, I'm not sure that a good, well-meaning person who's just looking for a better life, that cannot defeat our immigration laws. That cannot be enough to get you access to our country until we can figure out how to get you in front of an immigration judge. That can't be right.
Look at the brain drain from India to our country over the years.
Yeah.
And even China, if they've got their head on straight, but unfortunately they may be controlled. But India does not. India is a
Frank. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Thanks for bringing us into the music, my friend. And thanks for listening. Listen, when we come back, we'll continue this topic. We'll jump into another one as well here. Do you see what's going on at McDonald's and with some of the foods we're losing? George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. Another country cowboy music song right here on 710 KNUS. George Brauchler with you for the final hour. Charlie Kirk, of course, at 10 o'clock. Got a guy named DP, Dennis Prager, at 11. Gorka of the Sebastian kind at 1 o'clock. And then we go live and local with Deb Flora at 3. And I believe, according to Alexa, who keeps the calendar here at 710, that Stefan will be back at 4 o'clock from 4 to 7. I'm still hopeful he's not on that Chargers bandwagon, because the fact that they're making the postseason while we compete for, I believe, the worst record in the NFL. We're just awful. Anyway, Stefan will be on from 4 to 7. Make sure you take a listen to that as well. Now, listen, some texts have come in, and you can always call us at 303-696-1971, talking about really Gorsuch's dissent from the order yesterday by the Supreme Court on a 5-4 vote to oppose staying the order issued by a district court in Washington, D.C., an order that would have suspended the ongoing enforcement of Title 42 at the border. I think it's a fascinating opinion. I'm convinced, man, based on what he put in there, I'm convinced. Now, one of the callers that we had that's gotten a lot of traction here on the text, and you can hit us at the app and, of course, at 710knus.com, was David, who appears, it sounds like, and I can't commit him to this because he won't answer the dang question, seems to be an open borders guy, that borders shouldn't exist for really any other purpose than just a line on a map, and people should be able to come and go as they please. That's my sense of what he's saying. And so he had said at one point that Gorsuch doubled down on bigotry, in his opinion. And based on his reading of some, I don't know, The Hill column or opinion, I don't know, he couldn't really get to it. But reading the language, of course, there's no hint of that. But then somebody brought up something that I just thought was really insightful, and I wish I had come up with it. And the texter says, I wonder if David thinks Ketanji Brown Jackson is a bigot for siding with Gorsuch. Boom. Because she didn't just vote the same way Gorsuch did. She signed on to his dissent. Signed on to it. That's adopting the language of. That's impressive. That's a great question. I wish I had asked David. And obviously the answer is this has nothing to do with bigotry. Here's someone else. George, Congress has no intent to resolve the immigration and border issues. That's why DACA hasn't been addressed. Both parties enjoy having the issue as a campaign plank. After all, laws have been passed many times since 1986 that should solve it or at least significantly improve it. President Trump got as close as we will see for a long time. I hope that last part isn't true. I don't think that I don't want that to be true. But you're right about 86. Remember, Reagan, I think, granted amnesty to, like, I can't remember how many, 8 million, 11 million, I don't know the number, but a ton of illegal. Somebody just texted in, your lip looks much better. Thank you. It's not back to normal. Here's the downside of YouTube. You get to know all of my flaws, and they're a bunch, as well as my personal hygiene failures. Thank you for that. Here's one. Here's our buddy. What would be enlightening for most people, especially Dems, is listing the requirements for most major countries for a non-resident to move there. Maybe you could look at a few countries: Canada, England, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Singapore, for a discussion. In Canada, you have to have a minimum balance in your bank, 13,000 Canadian dollars for one person, and 25,000 Canadian for 4 people, and a job which you've been hired before you can enter Canada to reside there. Do people consider Canada a bigoted country for their requirements? I do. No, I'm kidding. I don't either, but that is a great point. I really do need to have some kind of an immigration expert on this. And by the way, in terms of the immigration thing, let me be clear. I just went to go vacation, not to live in Austria and Germany, just last week. They didn't just say, hey, thanks for flying over on Lufthansa. You're welcome to run about the country. Nope, they have passport control everywhere. And the passport thing wasn't just them looking at me and stamping it. These folks asked me questions. And by the way, to Alexa's point about the Canadian thing, in February, I had to go give a talk at a school safety training thing out in Vancouver, in Van City. And I was grilled with more questions going inbound into that country when I landed in Canada than any place I've ever been before. I mean, there were questions. This was just to go give a dang talk, right? I was going to be there like 2 days. And the questions were, are you here on business or pleasure? You get that one all the time. And I'm like, well, it's business, but I hope to sneak in some pleasurable things too. Ha, ha, ha. And then it turns into, what are you doing here? What's the business? No one's ever asked that before. I'm going to give a talk. Where? If the school safety thing, I could look up the address if you need it. How long's the talk? Well, 90 minutes. How many days are you talking? Because, if you exceed a certain number of days, you have to seek a visa. I mean, these guys were grilling the hell out of me. And by the way, at no point did I feel like it was because I was a white guy. It wasn't a bigoted approach to this. Alexa's point is really, really good. Here's another one. I have a fix for the border. Florida has, and I know you meant TOO, too many alligators. So I say relocate them to Texas. I bet they would be so ready to cross. They wouldn't be so ready to cross the river. I know that's meant tongue in cheek. I'm not looking to do these people harm, but I'm looking to stop them before they get here, at least until such time as we can resolve this. But the point is that policy a good one? And that was what Neil Gorsuch said. It doesn't matter what you think the right policy is. What matters is we're not the right body to pick one. We're not the right body to leave in place something that was supposed to address a COVID emergency that has been abated, according to just about everybody, except David, and then substitute that to quell some other emergency brewing on the southern border. I hate the outcome of that logic. I hate the outcome because that means Title 42 goes away and it's Katie bar the door by 100. Like, we already have a porous border. This is worse than that. But if we're going to follow the law, if we're going to follow the Constitution, if we're going to encourage the Supreme Court to stay within its lane and not engage in judicial activism, a restrained judiciary, there is no other answer that makes sense. There is no other answer that makes sense. And that's what concerns me about this. Our number 303-696-1971. Something else, by the way, in the news that concerns me. There are foods, and I know this seems like a far field from immigration, and it's true, but it's something that when I read it, I was concerned. In 2022, much like we see at the Oscars when we talk about, actors, actresses, producers, directors that we've lost people from food. Did you know that the Choco Taco is gone? I didn't get that memo. I didn't know it was ending. But the Choco Taco has been moved on. It was discontinued in July. Thing had been around for like 4 decades. And Klondike, who's now on my list, said that the company has, quote, experienced an unprecedented spike in demand across our portfolio. And so it had to make, and by portfolio, it means all of its products. And of course, we buy the Klondike bars too. Very tough decisions to ensure availability of our full portfolio nationwide. So they're blaming the success of all of their items on the death, their discretionary death. They've given the death penalty to Choco Taco. Honest Tea, I've seen that on shelves forever. That's going away too. That's gone. Coca-Cola has, after they acquired it, said no more. But this is the one that I think I didn't expect. Now, for those of you that are aficionados of something called the McRib, you know that it kind of became seasonal in a way. It came and it went. I mean, the thing had been around since, according to this article, and I didn't realize this, 1981, it was introduced to a menu at a McDonald's in Kansas City. And then it pulled it 4 years later, but then it's kind of come back. It keeps ebbing and flowing in. It's become this cult favorite. And at the end of the day, they've made the decision to pull it. After expanding it just 2 years ago to all their U.S. restaurants, they're pulling this thing for a while, whatever that means. They're taking the McRib away from McDonald's. And I have to wonder why. They don't give any explanation in this release that I've seen and in this article that talks about it. I don't know why they'd get rid of the McRib. Now, admittedly, what passes for a rib inside the McRib, likely not a rib. Likely some, it could be plastic. I think it's digestible plastic, but it's some sort of thing that mimics a rib without actually being a rib. But then this gets me to this article on what McDonald's is doing south of us in a place called Texas. And in Texas, there is a fully automated McDonald's. Fully automated McDonald's. And they're doing it down in, I don't think it's El Paso. It's Fort Worth, right there, part of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That's a giant city right there. And they're using technology to, quote, minimize human interaction when ordering and picking up food. Oh, yeah, that's real, folks. And if you look at this video, you can go Google this thing and find this video. There's a story from Fox Business about this. There's a bunch of different websites that have videos of this thing actually working. It's a much smaller McDonald's. The golden arches only appear in like a little logo that sits on a building. The building looks remarkably like a corrugated steel, kind of one of those steel buildings, very rectangular, not aesthetically pleasing and not inviting. And I think that's on purpose. It doesn't look like there's any place at all to sit down and eat inside the McDonald's. Gone are the play areas that have been around forever and ever. I mean, my kids played on them. Instead, it is really just a vehicle for producing these food items and sending them out one of two ways. One is you drive up and grab it, or you and like the Uber Eats and the DoorDash people can come in to different places. There are different parking spaces for people who are like the third-party app folks and you go in and you pick up this food. Now, there's got to be a human being or two in there behind the scenes making sure that things are working well. They're not just going to go completely Skynet, with Cyberdyne, but it's getting there. And I wonder if this isn't just a test case that maybe they slowly roll this thing up, but is this the future? Is this, and will it matter to you as a consumer? Is this good or bad? I looked at this and I thought, this has to be a response to the growing cost of labor in this country compared to all others that are out there. This growing cost of labor where we have said not just there has to be a minimum wage and it's got to be $1 kajillion, but we've said things like here in Colorado, my God, family. Remember that? We had that conversation about the FAMLI thing. We talked about that the other day and how it is now going to impose upon employers and employees alike this kind of extra tax that's going to go to a fund that is likely to be bankrupted within the first year. It's putting extra requirements on employees, not just the OSHA stuff, and there's value to a lot of that, but all of these different requirements, like you have to provide 12 weeks of paid or semi-paid leave, not just for having kids, but for all sorts of quote unquote family related things. It's the requirements for having this level of healthcare imposed on employers to give to employees. It's all the cost of the opting out. If you even allow it, only the government appears to be able to opt out of this onerous government program. But by the way, you can crap talk the General Assembly all you want for putting it on the ballot. I did, but we voted for it, folks. More than 50% of us, a big number, said, yep, we definitely want the government to put this in place. So we have ourselves to blame. But all of that stuff is making the cost of labor go up and up and up. And so now enter McDonald's. And McDonald's is huge because they have nationwide approximately 200,000 employees. What? 200,000 employees. Now, there's no chance that this kind of a thing, even if it becomes super successful, knocks out 200,000 employees. No chance of that at all. But it will shift who stays on. It will be much more of a maintenance management type thing, management of the technology thing, than it will be the customer service, personal interaction piece. The video that they show has somebody driving up to a drive-through window, and there's a conveyor belt. And the machine has, the Terminator, the food Terminator, has put together the bag and put the food in it and folded it, and it comes right out to your car. Now, that seems super cool and efficient, and I got to tell you, there are a lot of times where I don't want the personal interaction, but there are times when I want to be able to say, can I get some more napkins? Or can I get some more ketchup? Or you know what? I forgot to order the apple pie. Can somebody please set me up with an apple pie? You will lose the ability to do that with this current configuration. Now, can they work around it? Maybe they can. But are you looking for less human interaction when you go to fast food? Is this the future? And really, what's the cause of this? Have we done this to ourselves? Is this the workforce that has, and remember all these entry-level jobs. That's what fast food is. That's how I started. My first non-paper route job was fast food at a place called Wendy's at the old Villa Italia in the brand new food court that was upstairs. That was my first non-paper route job. So these are entry-level jobs. They're going away. It looks like if this thing catches on. And if you look at fast food nationwide, now 200,000 workers for McDonald's, but according to this one website, this is a government website, by the way, the business and labor statistics thing, their estimation is that fast food and counter workers, 3 million, almost 3.1 million, with a mean annual wage of $26,000. That doesn't seem like much. But McDonald's answer is, you know what? The one way we can get out from all the health care, all the paid leave, all the minimum wage stuff is let's create machines to do the work of people. They've been working on this forever, but man, it's happening. Do you like it? Do you think it's the right thing to do? Do you think that you would frequent a place like that? Would you prefer the machine over the person? 303-696-1971. Here's and by the way, the DoorDash and Uber Eats thing has really encouraged that as well, because now you can order online and give instructions to someone, just leave it on my doorstep. You don't have to see or talk to another human being anymore to get food. Is this just the next iteration of that? I mean, is this just now going to be the place where we make the fast food? And I got bigger questions about what this means long-term for the McDonald's brand, but this is crazy. Here's one. Only ordering and delivering to customers is automated. There will still be employees in the back preparing the food and putting it on the conveyor. Yep, that's true. That's true. But there's no more interaction with human beings. And those employees will be greatly reduced, right? Like you just need a couple folks back there to make sure that the fry machine gets filled. But I promise you, once they figure out that automated part, you know those people are going away too. Here's one. It's response to poor quality labor. Well, I wonder, is it that the labor quality out there has taken a hit? Is it the transient nature of labor, which kind of fast food was kind of built for that anyway? But I've heard this more and more from friends of mine who are in the employment business, and they're saying it's just really hard to find good people. Here's one. McDonald's is the new Xfinity. That's right. They're going to export your customer service to India. People pushing higher minimum wages are forcing corporations to look at enhanced automation and forgetting that these corporations will not have to pay Social Security on a robot. Well, that's true too. They don't have to pay any of those taxes. The only taxes they have to pay are the machine ones and the upgrade. And you know someone has sat down and crunched the numbers on what does it take to replace, repair, all that stuff. And they've decided this is going to save us a ton of money. And by the way, you never have an HR issue with a machine. You never have to worry about a machine sexually assault, at least at this point, sexually assaulting a coworker, or being not woke enough, or saying something. No machine triggers another machine with whatever robotic language they speak. I mean, this is going to end HR as we know it, at least for a big portion of this group. Really incredible stuff here. The texts keep coming in. Steve, you're on the phone. I want to get to you, I promise, but I got to take a quick break here, so I don't want to cut short our conversation. Let me tell you about something that you're never going to be able to automate, and you don't want to, and that is a champion, someone who will fight for you in our court system. My God, if they ever figured out a way to automate attorneys, I'd be opposed, by the way. That would be the end of humanity as we know it. Dan Kaplis, you can't make a robot out of Dan. Now, you may ask, is Dan part machine, part man because he is ageless? This guy never puts on weight. He never seems to get older. And now I think I'm talking myself into a belief that he could be the next version of the $6 million man. But Dan is a champion in the courtroom, in a place where human interaction is a must, in a place where conveying not just facts, but the emotion around them matters. And Dan has decided to take a career's worth of experience. Really, he's just invested his professional life in the idea of fighting for the little guy. I mean, it's amazing how successful that he and Bobber have been at the law firm in going to bat for people who don't have bats. People who don't even know where to stand on the field. He'll get you there, and he'll get you to the outcome. It's not going to be perfect because you can't give back the things that have been taken from someone's negligence or recklessness. But that next best thing, Dan and Bobber are the best at getting you that next best thing, which ain't too bad. Now, there's a million places you can call, but only one where you know you're going to get the kind of expertise and proven track record in the courtroom. I mean, like the 5 back-to-back multi-million-dollar. Who does that? Largest outcome against a trucking company in the history of Colorado. That's Dan and Bobber. Yeah, that's what they do for you. So check out Dan's law firm online. You can check it out at dankapleslaw.com. Kaplis, of course, begins with a C. dankapleslaw.com. But one of the best ways to get in front of Dan and start to have that conversation about how he can help you, and that's the business he's in, is helping you, is 303-770-5551. 303-770-5551. Check him out. When we come back, Steve, Ben, everybody else on hold right here. It's George on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler right back with you here on 710 KNUS. We're going to honor the callers right now. Ben, you're on 710. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, hey, George. You're talking about some of this fast food stuff, and I don't think a lot of it, honestly, even applies. Like when you're talking about minimum wage and family leave and things like that, because, this first automated station was down in Texas. And Texas has one of the lowest minimum wage laws in the country. They're $7.25 an hour. So, if it's happening down in there, it's not because of minimum wages going up down there. It's, because it's a more efficient way to do stuff. And, they're going to try to save as much money as they possibly can.
Well, I do think that there's something to be said for, hey, there's a desire to want to be more efficient and all that other stuff too. But picking Texas may not be a function of anything other than the fact that it's an easy place for them to go and put this in whatever that area is. Texas's minimum wage is important. McDonald's is a national chain. They are subject to all this. I just presume that one of the big silver linings to all this is, as we sounded out, think about all the things you don't have to deal with a machine. They may have to break down, right? But you don't have to deal with the COVID with a machine. You don't have to deal with immigration issues with a machine. You don't have to deal with any of the HR issues, not a single one. You don't have to deal with healthcare requirements, any of those regulations by the government. It seems like that is a big part of this, or do you see it as something else? Isn't this all about the bottom line?
Yeah, it's always about the bottom line. And, McDonald's is something that's franchised. So it's not necessarily, just because you work at this McDonald's, every single McDonald's is part of McDonald's corporate, X place. It's, individual owners that own these establishments, and they might have 10 or 15 restaurants or something like that.
Well, that part may be true, Ben, but that the franchise doesn't just mean, hey, I get a call at McDonald's and run it however I want. You still have to get permission from Mother McDonald's to do a whole bunch of things. And my guess is this one needed to be approved at the very top level.
Yeah, I'm absolutely certain it did.
Do you think if we lowered the cost of labor, and I was talking about this with Billy off air, do you think this would decelerate the push to try to get this done? And the reason I ask is because I think as we increase the cost of labor in America, more and more companies that might already be inclined to want to seek that efficiency from automation are going to be encouraged to do it even more quickly. Like, God, man, we got to figure out a way to get out from under this yoke.
Honestly, I don't think so, because I don't think, labor is one of their big costs. For example, in Texas, if you make $7.25 an hour, you're probably pulling in $15,000 a year, something like that. So, replacing a person with a machine, I don't know what the upkeep is on a machine, but I don't think that's a big part of their
but again,
expenses.
I think you're getting too caught up in the location of where they're launching this pilot. I don't read too much into that. My guess is it was just someone who was willing. It was the right market. There was the right regulatory environment. I'm not reading into it more than that, because if it works, they're going to put it around in a bunch of different places across the country. So when you look at that, it seems to me that automation is probably the future on a lot of different levels, but it's accelerated when we keep increasing the cost of labor. That has to be part of this.
Yeah, but that's going to be an issue like all the time. And my issue with when we have these really low labor laws is we end up subsidizing it in other ways. Like, if a person goes to a hospital, for example, and they can't pay their medical bills, all of a sudden my premiums go up because that hospital, has to pay for this stuff. They can't just, some guy has a heart attack, they can't just say, oh, we're not going to treat you. They have to do it. And that comes out of my insurance premiums and other people. So it comes out somewhere down the line for the rest of us. We pay for their welfare, we pay for other taxes, we pay for other stuff that comes out of our pocket somewhere, some way, shape, or form.
But you're just going to end up having it shifted to you through the consumer vehicle of the economy, because the business owner ain't going to pay for that. Business owner is going to take that and build it into the cost of the Big Mac, right? They're either going to make a profit or they're not going to be in business. Those are the only two options. So if we increase that input for labor because we're trying to offset whatever the requirements would be for the government to pick up the slack, all you're doing is shifting how you're going to pay for it. Now you're paying for it through the cost of the Big Mac instead of through an increased premium or something like that. At the end of the day, the problem with the healthcare vehicle that we have is that we've tied it to employment. It should have never been tied to employment. It shouldn't be. Our auto insurance isn't tied to our employer. Neither should the health insurance, but we're stuck there. But I think when you put all these other requirements, like the family leave thing here in Colorado, That is an albatross around the neck of small business. And you and I both know in about a year, maybe 2 years, the legislature is going to reconvene to say we have to increase how much we charge people in order to fund it because we've underestimated on purpose the cost to the state. When you keep doing things like that, I can see businesses saying, why would I do this? The bigger question for me, and I want to ask you this, Ben, is would you still go to a fully automated McDonald's, or do you want or need that human interaction with someone?
Honestly, I don't particularly care either way. So I'd go to an automated one. I'd go to one that has service. I mean, I don't really have, it's like when they started transitioning the grocery stores to the self-pay things, and I just kind of do whatever's most convenient. So if it's a shorter line at one of them, then I go to that one. And if I have a lot of stuff, then I'll go to the one that has a person, or if I have produce or stuff like that, that's going to take a while. So I just do whatever's convenient.
And so it doesn't matter to you. I mean, if we end up fully automating this, let's say McDonald's goes to 90% automation, doesn't matter to you. You're still going to see them as many times as you do right now. And by the way, I'm presupposing that you go to McDonald's from time to time.
Occasionally, not much, but yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Is this a trend that we ought to be concerned about?
I think maybe long-term, just, that's a big misconception. I think that goes around like a lot of the fast food things is they think it's all 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds. And honestly, when they do studies on that, that's not who's actually working the registers at most of these places. Most of them are people that are in their upper 20s through 40s and stuff that just, never got skills beyond high school. And
what do we do with them then? Once these jobs go away, where are those entry? And they should just be entry-level jobs. That's how I think I look at them. I don't look at them as career jobs. That's what gets people thinking we need to increase the minimum wage because how can you raise a family? You shouldn't raise a family on minimum wage. You should go do something else and make more money. What do we do with that?
I don't know. There's always jobs in manual labor stuff like construction, housekeeping, things like that. So it's going to be an industry shift. These people are going to have to go somewhere, but, go back to trade school, figure out new skills or something. But that's always been the issue is a lot of these people, aren't really that employable outside of something like a fast food or minimum wage job. So
I don't know. We're going to take away, I guess robots are going to take away more of those jobs. Ben, hey, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, buddy. Thanks for the phone call. Let me say this. I think the last industry ever to be automated should be the law. I don't know if that came as a surprise to you. It didn't come as a surprise to me. That's the last place in the world we should do any sort of automation. Here's a text coming in. My mechanic can't find anyone who wants to work. And when they do, they want $30 to start. I underwrite consumer loans and my industry is starting to develop AI to underwrite loans. Oh my God. How do you plead and cry with an AI underwriter to say, please give me the money? I get why fast food is doing this. Our work culture, just like the country's culture, I think that's what they're trying to spell there, is changing. The Puritan work, I think, ethic is now dead. We as a society want everything and have everyone else pay for it. We are the food stamp culture. There's a lot to that. I think there's more takers than there are producers here in America. And that's a scary, scary thing for us as we look for them to vote for people and policies. And here in Colorado on laws that actually do more of the taking from the minority. I think that's a growing concern to have for sure. Great show once again, George. However, your dig against, quote, old dudes in vans was just wrong. Oh, that's a reference to something earlier. I'm almost a 58-year-old dude that got new vans, one pair, mustard yellow from Santa. Better than sellout Skechers. I don't own them. Those damn New Balance sneakers, don't own them. Or shoes with Velcro, don't own them. Or some leather slip-on Nerdland kicks. I don't have those either. I do have those UGG slippers, though. They're pretty good. Plus, they're comfy and good for driving besides looking good. Go find yourself. Oh, yeah, I appreciate that quite a bit. Listen, I want to tell you before I cut loose with you for this next break about our good friend Mitch Floria. Frankly, I don't know if Mitch has ever owned a pair of Vans. We'll ask him the next time he's in studio. But I do know what Mitch has cornered the market on, and that is being the absolute best, the top shelf guy at making your house more beautiful on the inside by upgrading your kitchen and bathroom countertops. There are a number of businesses that are out there, and I'm sure they can do an adequate job. But if you're looking for superior performance at the kind of competitive price with unmatched customer service, there's only one place to go. And that's our buddy Mitch Flory at the Art of Granite. Now you go check it out at theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. But honestly, you're really losing out on the opportunity to see a small business that has really grown into a thriving business because of the great selection and customer service they have. Get in your car. You don't have to drive for hours. You just drive to about 6th Avenue and Colfax I-70 area. Go to where your Waze and Google people tell you to go and go check him out. You'll find him there, by the way, unless he's out on a job site. You will find his long-term employees there, and you will also find a selection of everything that this guy can do and even ideas for things they don't have on site, whether it's the God-made or man-made stuff, the granite, the quartz, marble. I keep thinking there's got to be someone like, well, no longer Elon Musk, who could afford to do like a diamond countertop. I don't know how you do that, but this guy could figure out how to do it for you. And here's the deal. Mention me, mention the show. They throw in a sweet deal for you. You get the kitchen countertop package. They'll throw in the bathroom countertop for free. If you're only interested in doing one, the bathroom or it doesn't matter. They'll throw in the sink for free. There is something for you just simply by saying, I heard about you on George's show on 710 KNUS. Call this number. It's his phone. And I don't mean the phone in the business, the phone in his pocket. 303-386-5919. 303-386-5919. Conversations for free, man. Just start that dreaming process of how to upgrade the interior of your home. That's theartofgranite.com, theartofgranite.com. When we come back, we'll take any of the other callers that are calling in, as well as any texts that are coming on. It's me right here, George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. Coming to America, a reference, of course, to the 8 o'clock hour conversation that we had about the Supreme Court's order on that Title 42 stuff. Fascinating conversation. Great calls, great texts on that. We're wrapping up this portion of the show on a discussion of the fully automated McDonald's that's being launched down there in Fort Worth, Texas, and really the reasons for it, and would you support it, and do you agree with it? A lot of texts coming in that attribute this to the increased labor costs. I think that has to be true. My guess is, though, labor costs are always an issue, and there's always efforts to try to modernize and automate as much as possible. The entire assembly line process was to try to make labor more efficient and the cost more bearable, at least in terms of creating a product quickly, efficiently, and a one that you can collect a profit on. I just think that all the things that we're doing, all this feel-good stuff where we mandate employers, this, that, and the other, it is encouraging expediting of the process of saying, you know what, I just want to do away with the labor thing as much as I can. It's just going to cost me less to go fully Terminator than it is to have to deal with the leave and the interpersonal relationship garbage and the woke stuff and the triggering and the posting of all of these signs with all of these OSHA things and the civil rights thing. I don't have to worry about robots violating another robot's civil rights because they ain't got none. All the taxes and the fees. I just got to believe that this is incredibly liberating for employers. But what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the kids who need those jobs as entry-level jobs, or people who, like Ben talked about, just don't have the skill set to get there? I don't know. I mean, there are going to be things, I think, that are always going to require at least some human touch. And I thought that personal interaction thing was a plus, that customer service stuff. I like that. My pleasure at the Chick-fil-A's. I like that. Those kids run around. They're always good, well-behaved kids. Decent personal hygiene as far as I can tell, but they're always good at being very accommodating. I like that. I'm not sure I want to see that replaced by robots, but I get why they would. I just wonder if we'll self-select that versus anything else. We are trying to distance ourselves more and more from human interaction. And maybe that's where talk radio goes, is we provide that last bit of contact without you having to touch someone. Now, of course, if you go to the YouTube channel, and you should, and subscribe and like it and send it around, you get to see us. And aside from the comments about how old I'm looking, I think it's probably a good step in the right direction. In fact, Mark came in here and talked about trying to get us to do more. George is walking down the hall, getting that cup of coffee, coming in and sitting down. Okay, and maybe in the men's room, the trip to the men. I don't know. But I do think that we're moving rapidly towards more isolation, less interconnectivity. That can only make it easier for us to hate one another and to spew violent venom and poison at each other, because we don't have to really deal with human beings at that level. And this is just another step in that direction. And I think we're encouraging it with some of the policies we adopt. Listen, let me tell you where you can get, by the way, still, there's no way to automate this because you can't get the same quality customer service by doing it. And that is jewelry, fine jewelry, Littleton jewelry. Now, the buying and the selling, the negotiating of the gold and the silver and the platinum and the coins and the watches and the jewelry repair, watch repair, beautifying it all. They just haven't figured out a way yet to automate that, and thank God, because if you want that kind of interpersonal connection, the kind of, you can look at someone in the eye and you can get a sense of who they are and their commitment to you. They're not just transient short-term employees, long-term employees. You go see Jesse and his team at Littleton Jewelry right there, just south of Hudson Gardens on the west side of Santa Fe. Easy to get to. And frankly, worth the trip. The area that they've really gotten a niche carved out into is this custom jewelry stuff. And I don't know. I mean, they use computers to help them get it done, but in no way can computers replace that personal human touch, the artistry that they engage in, that they take you through. So go check out Littleton. You can do it online first, but it can't be your only place to shop. LittletonFineJewelry.com, LittletonFineJewelry.com. Get in the car, go over there. And when you see Jesse and his team, tell them, hey, I heard about you from George on 710 KNUS. And they'll say, we listen to George on 710 KNUS. That's why we advertise there. We love the listeners. Go out there and let them prove it to you. You'll get that heirloom quality, legacy quality type stuff that you pass along. Doesn't have to be for any occasion. It could just be because that person is special. Take them up on their offer right now. Go out and see them. Now, the last thing I want to do here, and we've got some text coming in, no tubing issues. Clearly, that's a reference to to the YouTube thing. You like Chick-fil-A because they give you 50,000 sauces. That's not true. I do like the sauces, but no. Good show this morning. You boys did great. Thank you so much. I've seen Neil Diamond in concert many, many times. Thank you for playing him, of course. And then the last thing I want to finish up on is a point of personal privilege, which, as you know, I do this pretty regularly. My son, Trey, he's 18. As you know, he's a senior in high school right now. He's on his way to college after he can get out of this last semester. Today, in fact, right from here, I'm going to pick up some stuff to get this done. Today, he is being honored with his Eagle Award, which is the highest award you can get in all of scouting. And I got to tell you, I couldn't be prouder of him. As you know from the conversations we've had here, my son has some physical challenges with muscular dystrophy, and it has not kept him from going through scouts. And I would say this if I get the time today at this great ceremony that we're doing out in Highlands Ranch. There's many times that able-bodied kids want to quit Eagle, and that was true also for Trey. There were many times Trey was like, it's just not worth it. I don't want to go through it. It's just too hard. The challenges that he faced were significant all along the way. And muscular dystrophy is a degenerative disease, so it only gets worse. But these men and women that make up scouting that tried to figure out a way, and frankly, his mom gets so much of the credit. Marsha gets so much of the credit for helping encourage this and navigate these waters. Found a way to get him to accomplish all the things he needed to accomplish within the confines of his physical limitations. And as you know, for those of you that know scouting, you don't just get an Eagle Award because you accumulate a certain number of patches over a certain period of time. That's part of it, but that's not the biggest part of it. The biggest, lastest thing is this Eagle Project. And this kid, with the help of some great people, put together an Eagle Project that just, I think, speaks to where his heart is. And that is accessibility and mobility. And so he created this, went to a garden in a community not far from here, and got them to agree to let him put in a path that would allow people who are wheelchair bound to go see the garden, which they couldn't in the past. They didn't have any real way for the people in a wheelchair to get around. And so that's what they set out to do. And people volunteer their time, and adults volunteer this. And you go to Home Depot and they volunteer things. My big shout out to Home Depot for all their support of scouting. And over the course of really 2 days, and it was 2 days when me and Graham and Jeff were out in Cooperstown for Graham's baseball tournament. So even Dad couldn't be there to help out. It was the only weekend we could get this thing locked down. But Marsha was there, friends, family, other scouts were there, and they all pitched in to help get this thing done. And the best part of this story is they wrap it up. They're finishing this. Car pulls up. Old guy gets out of the car, helps his wife get out of the car into her wheelchair, and they wheel around this garden. Anyway, I'm just super, super proud of this kid. I don't know what the future holds, but man, he's got a big heart. He's got a lot of guts. And just a killer support system, wonderful mom, and friends and family and scouting that have put this thing together. So while scouting numbers have suffered over the years for a whole bunch of reasons, and COVID was no fan and no friend, I got to tell you, it is still, for my money, one of the best investments for character development for both boys and girls. And I tell you that as the father of one of the very first female Eagle Scouts in the state of Colorado, if not the country. I'm a big believer in it. And I feel like, looking at the smile on Trey's face when we were talking about today and what he's accomplished. And he wrote this speech. He's got to give this talk. All scouts do it. And some of them put more effort into it than others. But Trey was determined to sit down and write this thing out. And of course, Dad, who's in the business of words, said, hey, I'm sure it's going to be great. Do you want to, let me take a look at it? I can give you my thoughts. And, he said, sure. And so he shared it with me as a Google Doc. And, man, I read this thing and I got teared up, much like now. And I went and I saw him in his room and I said, don't change a thing. Man, it was authentic and moving as anything I've ever read. And I just love this kid to pieces. And if you're hearing a funny sound in my voice, it's because of your speaker system. It's not me. But I'm just so proud of this guy, and I wanted to share that with you. Love scouting, love what it's done for the kids, love the opportunities and the demands, frankly, that it has upon these kids, and the recognition, too, that no kid gets his eagle all by himself. It's always a family effort, and especially parents. And in this particular case, it's got to be about a 3-to-1 split, Marcia versus me, on what took place over the course of these many years with Trey. Everything from, okay, I did the Pinewood Derby stuff, no doubt about it, and some of the colder nights of camping, but everything else is really Marcia. And so it's just a wonderful, wonderful event. And I'm going to go to that from here, and I'll talk about it a little bit tomorrow. We'll see if we can't share some of the specialness of there. If I can record Trey reading his speech, I'm going to subject you to it. So suck it. That's coming tomorrow. Listen, my thanks to Billy. It's great to have you back in the saddle, my man. We'll continue to tackle the rest of the shows for this year. We've only got 2 more in 2022. You can be part of them. Check us out online at the podcast. Please go to the YouTube channel, like it, subscribe to it, send it to your buddies. And then call in tomorrow to 303-696-1971 and check us out on the text. Deb and Stefan later today. It has been a pleasure to be with you. It's me, George Brauchler, right here on the fantastic 710 KNUS. See you tomorrow.